Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry about the delay on that. But we are up, running, and ready to go. This is doing what it's supposed to be doing. That likely will not be. Okay, just a sec. Knock that shit off you. Alrighty. Just a minute here.
For the you know, the whole universe and this, that, and the other. We decided to do a community voice more so because we actually had one. We had a launch party sort of thing, and then we thought, right, well, we'll wait a week and we'll see about, you know, getting some of the community together to get some feedback from them and also answer some questions. I know lots of people have got lots of pressing questions and stuff like that. I've been seeing it in, like, you know, asking things in like general Ground Zero, open beta discussion, the faction leader chat. You know, I only have a couple of the faction leaders here, but I'm sure some of them have some pretty cool and awesome questions that I can definitely answer. We have been pretty much triaging the game ever since it went open beta. A lot of the issues that we found are more or less to do with the release of, you know, like the whole multiplayer aspect of the game. So the multiplayer aspect that a lot of people are seeing right now is essentially a like a pseudo multiplayer. You know, it's something where you can just see other people every now and again, and there is combat involved, but I think it's roughly about 45 seconds to a minute or so. A lot of people have been testing that out, so you know, if you did want to do serious beef, just get everybody to vault into one area and just blow each other's heads off. That's the quickest way. You know, there's lots of other things missing. Obviously, we've discovered lots of bugs to do with like the faction tools, the terminal system, the marketing system, production, crafting, all of that bits and pieces. But we're slowly working through and trying to get those fixed, sort of like as quickly as possible, to make your experience a lot more enjoyable. It is a slow and steady haul of, you know, repeating, doing things again, and sort of like just working through the whole process and bits and pieces. First of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the floor talk, and I'm going to sort of like, you know, just ask if you've got any questions.
Hey, Sludge, thanks for the 10, buddy.
Calm and
Appreciate the
collectively,
donation,
don't all
turn.
just
Thank
talk
you
at
all
the
so
same
much.
time. If you want to, just we start now, yeah. So if anybody has any questions, please ask me now.
Really appreciate it. And, anybody has any questions, by all means, go ahead and put them in chat. I'll put them out in the Discord forum to
Sorry, I missed that bit. Ask what kind of questions?
So any questions that you have since the release of open beta to right now, do you have any questions to ask me based on the whole release, you know, the experience of it, issues that you've had, anything like that? Just fire away. I'm here.
So, AE is obviously a civilian faction, as you said, and they can't take colonies. How is that supposed to work overall in your long-term plan for Face of Mankind when you also want to bring in AE as well, no, AC as well? So you're going to effectively have, down the line, 2 civilian factions that can never take colonies, yet you want them to have a purpose. But realistically, that purpose is quite mute long-term when they can't contribute any real sort of threat to any other faction.
So, first and foremost, let me just explain the outer design of the game. Obviously, originally, the idea is to have 8 factions, which are the 8 basic factions. You've got LED, FDC, then the clans. So you've got 3 clans and you've got 3 corporations, right? EC, CMG, VI, GOM, MOTB, and BOS. 8 in total. Then you have sub-factions. Sub-factions are essentially what sub-factions... Sub-factions are the additional factions. GIS being one of them. They are a sub-faction of GD, essentially. Or they sit above GD. I'm not really sure where GIS sit right now. John's trying to work out some good lore pieces for it. They're not really doing anything at the moment. They're just sort of like chilling in the background, and you know, we're trying to come up with some ideas for it. AE is a sub-faction corporation. The idea behind bringing it back was that we had some... I did some a long time ago when I was redesigning the armor for to bring back all the logos and stuff, which was a painful lesson in modeling for this game. And I'll show you guys an example of how models are made in this game in a bit later.
Also, just a heads up, we are in the
fucking
Discord.
awful it is. I was plowing through some of the assets that were on Fall of the Dominion, and also some of the assets in previous versions of Face of Mankind, and we had an amalgamation of like bits and pieces that we could use. So I decided to implement the American Enterprises trench coat. There is a male and female version. I haven't imported the female version yet because it's still a pain in the ass to export it through Blender. Import it, export to Blender, and then import back into the editor so that I can use it as a new model. The also idea behind American Enterprises is that, yes, in old form, American Enterprises was essentially it was absorbed into, I believe it was Eurocore through the lore-wise. It was bought out at some point during the game. And then they sort of like dissolved the whole name of it. It sort of seeped into the ether. But then during Fall of the Dominion, American Enterprises came back as a corporation. It was one of the few corporations that actually existed in Fall of the Dominion at the time, because of, obviously, you just had lots of player-ran factions, essentially. And if you wanted to buy one of the original factions, you had to fork out an extensive amount of money to Nexion, and they would give you, like, I don't know, a custom faction that you could run that was essentially the old faction from the game. So from there we thought, okay, well, in the space that of Fall of Dominion and of course Empire Rising being 123 years later, AE could still exist. They could still be a corporation. We still don't know the ins and the outs, the lore behind it, that sort of thing, and a lot of that's being sort of still built. The idea of it right now is that it is solely a department within the civilian faction. It is not a fully fledged faction. It is a small department run by Staten Chance, and essentially all he does is he does his own little thing alongside the GD to help the Global Dominion. sort of like the bread and butter, kind of like how DHL is the bread and butter courier service of like pretty much a lot of the world, Germany mostly. Um, but it's sort of like, a bread and butter corporation. It's not allowed to, for example, like, whilst it is a represent I can't say the word representative of the global dominion, it's not a fully fledged faction. So come to say a Senate meeting, he wouldn't necessarily get a desk because there isn't enough desks. As you can see on my screen, all the desks are reserved for the actual full factions. He would probably sit somewhere in like the Senate standings, but not really have much of a voice because he would have to wait until the president talks. So he's sort of like, it is a government corporation, sort of like a public sector corporation that just does government related things to help the GD move forward. It's not a fully fledged faction as per se, but in the future, we do actually have the technology to include new factions. We just have to work out how. So, whilst we were implementing some new commands into the game, we discovered a way to. It's almost like there's a blank faction in the code that allows you to. We don't know where it goes. It's one of those things that we're currently working on. We can pull custom like models into it. We can pull custom assets into it, but it doesn't fully work yet. And once we understand how that works, then we can start experimenting and building old factions back into the game. That means GIS can become its own faction again. American Enterprises can be its own faction again. Asian Coalition can be its own faction again. The Syndicate from BOS can be its own faction again. There are so many of these old and new sub-factions that existed in like old FOM, and they all have like ranks and everything like that scattered throughout all the game files over the past, like, I don't know, how many years has it been? 23 years of Face of Mankind. So some of the stuff is there, some of it isn't there, some of it needs to be built, some of it needs to be coded in, but a lot of that stuff is essentially sort of like my domain. I have to figure out how this all works and put it all together and that sort of stuff. And it's just one big giant work in progress. Now, I know that some people have probably perhaps had some issues with American Enterprises at the beginning of the game. I know a couple of people have come to me and they said, look, this isn't very fair. It's, X, Y, and Z. I just want to put my hands up and apologize for any sort of any things that have happened along the lines of release. The idea for American, as I said, going back to the idea of American Enterprises existing now, is they're just meant to be like a small department. Like 5, 6, 7 people at best. They just do ecoing. They can't. They can do sort of like. They can do their own sort of thing if they want to, but there's other repercussions behind it. It's like, because they're a GD based corporation, you're not going to see them go to war with like FTC and LED, because it's like cutting off the cutting off the hand that feeds them, essentially. The benefits are just not all ironed out there. It's just a way of sort of like, allowing people to be a bit more free within the game. If you want to join AE, then join AE. AC at the moment is currently completely locked off. There is no armor for AC. There is no funky clothes for AC. All it is currently a department within Vortex Incorporated, but you can't see it. You'll see my character, my progressive character that sits within it, and I mostly roleplay on that character. I don't do anything else. I follow a lot of the old story of Asian Coalition. I'm still digging through a lot of the lore books on it. I'm being helped by Bob Dobbs on the understanding of what happened. And of course there's still a question waiting to be answered at Asian Coalition. There was a trial that was supposed to take place, but because all of the seniors joined VI or were integrated into Vortex Incorporated, that trial never took place. It was almost like, like they escaped justice for the actions that they did towards the end of the original Face of Mankind, and they were quite extensive. They were a big player in the corporation war, and they did as much damage as everybody else. But we'll have to wait and see on that front. But yeah, I hope that clears up some of the questions behind sort of like these sub factions and other factions and that sort of thing. But for the pretty much for the duration of open beta, the 8 factions available to you are the 8 original factions. Those are the ones that we expect people to go to. AE is invite only. You can't join AE from the get-go. You can't go to Stat and Chance and say, right, okay, I want to join your faction. It is meant to be a invite-only faction. And if Staten is stepping outside of the lines of advertising and that sort of thing, then I'll be more than happy to go and have a chat with him and let him know that he has to remember that it's an invite-only sub-faction department of the government, which is the citizen faction at the end of the day. That is the government. So that's where we are right now. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got.
No, you go, Chef. You go, Chef.
Yeah, so
Just real quick, anybody who has questions that can't be in the VC or anything else, you're more than welcome to put it out in chat. I will read it out for him, or I believe he's in chat, so you can read it out as well.
where did the beginning of Empire Rising come from? Like, I know that there was some code, received from an old version of this, and I'm unfamiliar with like what company that came from, and then also the kind of additional part of that question is like, to what extent is there any connection to like the people who originally developed this game? And what does that look like going forward? Is there any ties? If you could just explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure, not a problem. I have no ties with Marco Diekman, who was the original developer and lead director, I guess, of Duplex Systems. I also have no interaction or ties with Nexion, who I believe is still running the Charles Woods, I think his full name is still running a Nexion Technologies in the US. But as far as I know, that they are a VPS/domain hosting service. They don't operate in like the games realms anymore. The Empire Rising code, where it comes from, we didn't receive the code from anybody else. It is built completely in-house. When we originally started development, I started development in early 2023 with Tornadium on the Built Discord, where we started to experiment with Extra Crispy's old emulator to try to get it to work. And then we branched out. We started like looking at new ways to do it. I put a Discord together, and I just invited a few people that I knew from the Face of Mankind community. This is before I met most of the guys in this channel, to be honest. It was probably about 3 or 4 of us. It was myself, Drax, Killzoz, Tornadium, Beer Baron, and who was the other guy? Oh, it was Killzoz's friends, Mateus. And we started like playing about with like one of the older versions of FOM that we found, which was version 12. I think it was 1262. That was, or 1232. It was one of the very early versions of Face of Mankind. This is OJOM era FOM. We managed to get as far as building a login authentication to basically boot up the client and essentially get to the login screen, and it also allowed us to build a packet sort of like receiver, so we could read the packets that would go back and forth. And then over a period of time, we started like pushing more towards trying to crack the encryption to be able to build like a fully fledged login server. But it's all our own code. We have not used any third-party like resources or anything like that. Our first official login authentication thing was built fully from scratch. Our team doesn't. How do you say? We don't use a lot of the previous teams, including Nexion included. They used injector tools to basically get into the current files, like the C shell, and hook some of the C shell like code. How do you say? I can't. They're called enums in the in IDA. You basically hook into them, and then you basically tell them to do something else. That's how Extra Crispy Simulator used to work. We don't do any of that. We don't edit any of the original files that are part of this game. All of the code on the back end is all written by our development team. It is fully written from the ground up. So everything that you see now, that's why it's taken so long for us to get this stuff to work. Face of Mankind is a client-heavy MMO, right? Most MMOs out there, things like World of Warcraft, for example, they're not so much client-heavy. They have assets, yes, but they're
that's
more
not gone.
server-heavy, database-heavy sort of stuff. This game is completely client-heavy. So that means all the assets, all the functionality of the game can essentially be played standalone, like without multiplayer. So you could run around colonies and do stuff without, having to ever interact with anyone. At one point, that's pretty much what we had. We had a standalone runabout sandbox that you could do virtually just about everything that didn't require multiplayer by yourself. Around probably November, we came across another team that was also working on the project, and we merged together to make the Empire Rising team in fall. And pretty much from there, this is, the journey that we've been on. We've worked sort of like all together as one to deliver a brand new Face of Mankind project to the community that, used to play this game, and also new people that are interested in playing this game. People that have never seen Face of Mankind before have joined this community and said, "Wow, I never got to play this game when it was around. It's really cool that I'm allowed to play it now." It's pretty much all it is. And where we go in terms of the future is we have an extensive list of post-release content that we'd love to put out. We have the ability to create new worlds, new models, new sound effects, new music, like music that you hear in the game, all sorts of stuff, and implement that into the game. As you've seen with the client, we've got like a new login screen, a new star map. A lot of it's been really sort of like glazed up, so it looks cleaner. It looks better than the older versions of From, and it obviously gives it that unique spin that we are moving forward with, like essentially a sequel to Fall of the Dominion. We want to get out of the realms of emulation and private servers and rogue servers, mostly because the idea of having a private server or rogue server is that you need to have official servers in place for there to be a private or rogue server. Well, Nexion don't host an official version of this game. Duplex has moved on fully. Marco works for a games company now, I believe, that's part of like Ion Games, which is a subsidiary of 404 Games. I think they're a part of like Microsoft and that sort of thing. I don't know the big history behind it, but if you've looked at his catalog of games now, he's making some really great smashes out there. I know some comments from some people that have spoken to him, and of course, this project has been shared in his own personal Discord, and he's made passing comment on it like, "Oh wow," things like that. I don't think he's really that bothered about Face of Mankind anymore. I think people have tried to reach out to him, and he mostly ignores them. In fact, I know a few people that have actually reached out to him since we've been in development to ask him, can we get the source to FOM? Can we do this? Can we do that? And he just doesn't respond to people. It might be more so that because now he works for a games company, it's like, he's not really, he's probably not allowed to go after like his old developments and stuff like that because of clash of like whatever. And maybe he genuinely has just washed his hands of it. I've not had any contact from him or Nexion. I have had a few conversations with Oblivious. I'm sure most of you guys know who Oblivious is. Chris, who previously was the main and lead developer for Nexion for pretty much, 2009 all the way up to the end of Fall of Dominion, plus a couple of additional games that they released on the side. And he's been good help. He's answered questions that we've asked him from the development team, and of course, he's genuinely sort of like sat down with some of our guys and said, "Hey, like what you're doing is really cool." There is an interest there from him, but purely an interest. He is obviously moved on to other bits and pieces, and I completely respect that. So we're on this journey now. We'll continue to bring Face of Mankind back to life until it's in fully working order. Our scheduled release date for this is 2027, so we have a solid year and a half or so to do more stuff to it. But we've gone from building a login server to only seeing the login screen to the character select screen to where we are right now in a space of give or take 8 or 9 months. So in about 8 or 9 months time, I think in 2026 when we're having another conversation like this, I'm sure everybody will be jumping around from fighting each other, exhausting clones, taking colonies, full combat, that sort of thing. But we just have to wait and see, because a lot of this stuff takes a lot of time, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. I hope that answers your question, Chef.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Yoshi. That's very thorough. Appreciate it.
But yeah, one thing, if anybody does ask, is there an emulator? Is there a private server? Don't say yes. Say there is a sequel to FOM, and it's called Empire Rising. Because that's the journey we want to go in. We want to have this is the next game. Things will change over the time to make it look more like the next game. I can share with you some optimization stuff that has been done so far. Some of the optimization stuff that is currently in the game. I don't know if it actually works. Yes, it does work. So, some of the stuff that is currently in the game is we now have enabled borderless windowed mode. So you can play this game full screen in borderless windowed mode.
Thank God
which is
for that.
something that the game never supported before. Or if you had a third-party program, you would have had to force it to do it. So there is that. We also have mouse optimizations being worked on so that it supports a higher DPI input from mices. I don't think mouses is a word, so it has to be
Mice. It's already plural.
Cool. Thanks. And then, of course, we also have other bits and pieces that are going in for optimization to make the game look better. One of the things that one of our guys is working on right now is, how when you try and play this in like 4K and everything is tiny in terms of like your UI, we're looking at trying to include some sort of like UI scale. Sort of like if you've played other MMORPGs out there like WoW or Rift or Star Wars The Old Republic, Eve maybe, they probably have like a UI scale in place where you basically slide it back and forth. Our one won't be as custom as that. It might be like -100 to 0, for example, and that might, scale the UI based on your resolution. But we're hoping that that is something that's going to be coming within the next year or so. So yeah. Next question.
Yeah. Hang on. So, why is it that the narrative seems to be circling around Gianni so much? And is his importance to this narrative going to distract from the affairs of other factions? And is there a potential we're going to lose our autonomy in favor of this Shadow Emperor who supposedly controls everything? Because the fuck.
So yeah, originally Gianni had this story. So this was going back probably about 9 months now. We were looking at like, what era of the game is in. Like, people kept asking the questions like, is this just going to replace Fall of the Dominion? Are we just going to go back in time to like before Fall of the Dominion? And then we realized like, well, we can't go back in time because we've got people that played Old FOM in this community, right? And we're not talking Old FOM as in like 2012. There are people in this community that played 02 to 04 FOM, and that is pretty much all they played. And then we've also got people that played 04 to 06 OJOM, and then we have people that played Extra Crispy Simulator, and then Nexion, and then Fall of the Dominion. And we're like, well, we can't just go back in time and just expect everyone to just go back to their, their old sort of characters and all that. Now, there is a story being worked on for the time between what happened in Fall of the Dominion to what is currently happening now, and how that all blends into Gianni's character of the quote-unquote Shadow Emperor. Now, right now, the year in Open Beta is 2020. It's 2 years. Any of the Shadow Emperor sort of stuff it's still in a building stage. He's still trying to.
Yeah, well, I will unmute for that.
Kind of. We looked at a lot of different stories. A lot of the guys that work on the story, they read a lot of books. They don't watch an awful lot of TV, but they do read a lot of books. They take a lot of their information from, books based on, Battlestar Galactica, Star Wars, Star Trek, those sorts of, space opera sorts of things. And
Defro, thanks for the Prime subscription. Thank you so much, bud. Thank you for being a citizen of the Viking Nation. And, Link, thank you for the follow, bud. Greatly appreciate it. Welcome aboard, sir.
Travel is, one of those things that everybody seems to use. Everybody loves just dropping in, oh, well, I traveled back in time, and, we're going down the route of, obviously, VI have vortex gates, so they're allowed to not necessarily manipulate time, but they can manipulate reality if you have the right kind of engineer that knows how the vortex technology works. And there is the idea that at the end of there was a war. It was called the Nameless War, and this happened during Fall of the Dominion. And Sure Shot is actually one of the people named as one of the front leaders of that war. Essentially, it was the war that basically brought about the end of the universe as we knew it, right? Which was the end of the Fall of the Dominion. And that war was essentially a war where none of the factions existed anymore, because in one way or another they all sort of disbanded, or they all sort of they just got crushed underneath whatever was going on in the actual war itself. A part of that is obviously, if Vortex Incorporated are taken out of the picture, who then operates the Vortex gates? If the Dolly Inc. Corporation no longer services the cloning facility, who then allows people to clone? So the point of our story is, between those 123 years, at some point, basically the galaxy goes dark. Because it's literally you've got 10 or 20 years of just loads of different mini factions going to war with each other, and it's just constant violence, it's constant killing, it's constant like genocide on different worlds. It gets to a point where the Vortex, because there's no Vortex incorporation to run the whole Vortex system, well, nobody's really running the Vortex system anymore. It's not getting the maintenance that it requires, and then worlds start shutting down. You can't then connect to the old, like, you know, you can't go to P51. P51 then cuts off the remnants of EC, and what's left of EC, Gianni included, stuck on a world all by himself, where he can't get back to, say, Earth, for example, or he can't go to Titan Station, or he can't traverse halfway across the galaxy. What happens to the Yukon? What happens to, you know, the different sorts of, you know, all the worlds are essentially cut off from each other. They then become their own planets, you know, people, it turns into almost like the world is dying. And then you have Dolly Inc. that's like, you know, non-existent anymore, so the cloning system eventually shuts down. And then when the cloning system eventually shuts down, you have no more... People can no longer feel the light, you know, the pull of immortality anymore, because that's what cloning does. It essentially allows you to come back to life over and over again without worrying about actually dying forever. So there are characters out there that have probably lived a good, like, 400 or 500 years. You know, they started their families in O2 form, and they carried them all the way through to 2014 Fall of the Dominion. But over that 10-year gap that the game was offline, we had to make something cool. So the basic synopsis of it is, and I actually have a little bit of story here from our guys at the moment, which I can read you. If you just give me a second. Gotta go all the way up here. Further up. It's here somewhere. So here we go. So in 2438, for the first time in centuries, physical aging becomes visible among the general populace. The concept of natural death re-enters daily life, causing widespread fear and cultural shifts. So you imagine,
pretty much
like,
has
for
turned into story time with
decades,
Yoshi, huh?
for centuries, everybody has been able to clone themselves and live forever. And now all of a sudden, clones don't exist anymore. You have about... You can't die and then go to cloning anymore. So the physical... That idea of permadeath becomes reality. That is the end of your legacy, the end of your character. And these aren't characters that you've experienced. These are just characters in the world. You know, at this point, everybody is secluded off into their own colony. They're in their own little bubble, essentially, as players. But the rest of the world continues. But now the rest of the world can't clone. You know, the NPCs, for example, the non-player characters that you would see, they are real characters in the world. They can't clone anymore. They can't. They don't live forever. And it makes everything like so much more real, almost like real life. And we attribute this as well because there have been deaths within the FOM community, real life players that have played this game for a long time and have passed away. And we'll put that aside for now because I want to come back to that, and because I have something that will honor those people in the long term as well. But a second part of this story is in 2551, which is roughly, well, we're now, what is that, 13 years later. In the response to the ongoing crisis of aging and mortality, new groups called tech archaeologists begin to emerge. They scour the remnants of corporate records and GD databases for lost technology and information. Among them stands Project Eclipse, with its obsessive and cult-like. They're almost like a cult. Like they They believe in the absolute. They believe that they have to bring cloning technology back because nobody else is wanting to. Everybody else is just, it's pure anarchy out there. Every place that they try to visit via ship takes years. You know, we're back to ship technology where they're having to traverse from ship to planet to, you know, through space. There is no instant vortexing or anything like that. And their obsessive, you know, nature is that they want to find the cloning facility. These are like, you know, like the last of like the best heads or minds of the galaxy that have gone out there with a mission to essentially find, you know, a solution to the cloning. And we're sort of there at this point. We're writing that story. It's almost like a big prologue story that we want to put out there to the people, and say, look, you know, this is the, you know, this is the prequel to Empire Rising. This explains why we're back. You know, so obviously at this point in 2559, we're at a point now where that group succeeded in their journey. They restored the cloning system, which allows players to now come back. It allows people to restore everything. They found remnants of the old factions and brought them back. They found the old Vortex incorporated travel system, and you know, and brought that back, and it allowed planets to reconnect to each other again. It's a big story. There's a lot included in it, but it definitely will be explained in the coming sort of like year or so. The guy who's writing it is he's very much hard at work, and we have some really, really cool stuff. You know, it's not going to be a story for everyone, but it's just going to be a story about how it's come to be. And it's not, you know, it doesn't necessarily, not everybody needs to pay attention to it, because not everybody plays Face of Mankind for the roleplay side of things, or the lore, or that sort of thing. A lot of people play Face of Mankind because they enjoy, you know, the team deathmatch, the group fighting, the togetherness, bringing factions together, and that sort of thing. But for some people out there that want to know why this has happened, and we want to try and embed that history into the game.
I get that. All cool. All cool. Why Gianni?
Gianni is a part of that obsessive cult.
So, him being an active player in EC, for example, and being the Shadow Emperor, are the two not going to conflict overall?
Kind of yes and no. We have to. As I said, it's still a big work in progress. Right now, for open beta, he's the EC R7. We have and we took this idea. Well, I took this idea from the Matrix Online. I don't know if anyone's ever played the Matrix Online before.
I've played it. Yeah, I've played it.
They had something called a live events team, which were players that played storyline characters that then sort of progressed the Matrix story. So you had people that were like, can't remember some of them now. You had people that were labeled as like LET, live events team, right? And they helped like Morpheus, for example, or the Assassin, or they helped like the Machine faction, the Agents, or like the Merovingian and stuff like that, progress their factions forward along the story. Not everybody took part in those events, but you normally had like one person would turn up and be like, this is happening right now on this, you know, on this area of the map. Come and join if you want. There'll be a boss to fight. There's a story that follows through, sort of thing, and then they document that story in like a comic book or something like that, or something gets released. That's the idea that, you know, we kind of want from the live events team, and that all sort of bleeds into the story of the game. It's a person that plays a character that is there to help with the faction. So they are not they're not like GM rank 7 or anything like that. They are a part of a completely separate story-driven team, and they all sort of like they drive the story of the faction. So, say for example, an example, Dane, you become R7 at GOM. Right? How do you become R7 at GOM? From what person helps you transition from where you are now to becoming R7 of GOM? Is there a story behind it? Is that story going to involve events? Do you want to branch out to the live events team that will then sort of like bring it all together for you? That's the idea behind it. Gianni's character, the Shadow Emperor, is a live events character, for example. That is one of the building blocks behind... Sorry, I need to grab some water. Just a second. That's one of the building blocks behind it. For a lot of his story, if you wanted to know more about the Shadow Emperor, you would have to read some of the stuff that he's posted before.
Yeah, so I absolutely get where you're going with it and what you're trying to achieve with it. But in effect as well, what made FOM so great previously and for so long, what made it such a unique game was the fact that it was the players that controlled the story in effect. I am absolutely on board with the idea that there is a bridge for a story that you're trying to tell. But it seems more like you're trying to basically have this let team be the funnel for that story. And by positioning Gianni as this Shadow Emperor, we effectively know as well who we have to focus it around. So it kind of like feels like there's a slight bias to it all already. And I get that you're in that working it out stage and there's the kinks. But doesn't it kind of goes against the grain of what made FOM great?
And I understand.
And I suppose as well, where this is going feels like you're taking away our autonomy as players to have that story. So obviously, of course, towards the end of FOM, it was fucking DL built, EC, CMG, VI, everything everywhere. GOM was having a civil war with itself and then fucking went full on Merc. It went chaos. And in times when it's going to go like that, I absolutely agree that there should be some steers from the let team or the GMs or whoever the fuck. But where you're taking it feels very much like you guys keep making the bad decisions, so these are the decisions you have to make.
I've not actually heard that approach towards it, to be fair, Dane. That's a new approach on it. So let me take a step back, and by the way, Manhattan is back up. I just put it back up. So the purpose of the live events team is to create. So there is Face of Mankind, right? So you jump in, you play your character, you go about, your everyday, you build a story around your character and the people that you connect with. But there is also the option to join in on an ongoing story within the world, for example. It is, Gianni's story of playing the Shadow Emperor is very much his sort of like, his momentum of moving his character forward. Just like it would be, even if the Shadow Emperor story didn't exist, Gianni would create a story that his character would play within the universe and interact with other people. It's not a forced, it's not a forced story. It's dependent on the characters. We're not trying to go down the route of like leading people into like, so this is the way it is and this is the story that they have to play by. If people want to roleplay or do their own thing, then they're more than happy and free to do their own thing. They're not going to get gimped by not taking part in something that happens in the background. You know, a lot of the original Face of Mankind, when I played, there was a story taking place in the background that the Duplex guys were working on. It wasn't a well thought out thing, but it was, given time, they had some really sort of like big players up there that created like civil wars within the communities. And I mean, you had at one point, I heard a story of, there was, what was it, a rank 7 of BOS that also had a rank 7 in another faction, and he managed to cause like a war between these two factions without either of them knowing that he actually started that war. You know, that's pretty cool. You know, that's a pretty cool thing to do.
So I get where you're going with that as well, and I just want to sort of interject at this point and kind of pick on something you said there, which is, and I'm sorry, a bit of a concern, because you mentioned that the Shadow Emperor is a story for Gianni in moving the momentum of moving his character forward, and I'm going to focus on the his there. This is his story. But then I want to put the focus on James Zabin, who made himself an emperor by himself and created this story and got loads of player characters on board with it. And yeah, there's a little bit of narcissistic egotism to it, and that's James Zabin to a nutshell. We love that Texan dude, but he did it on his own free will and had the right and the ability to do it as a player because that was what made FOM great. But now we're being told this is the concrete law for Gianni, but also for everyone else here. Because what made it great when Zabin made himself emperor, it meant that MOTB or BOS or EC didn't have to really listen to it and accept it, but they accepted that that was what was happening with James Zabin. But all of it now is very intrinsic around Gianni, and it's becoming this very individualistic nepotism of pet projects of all these individual players having this light shone on them because they want it, and it just sort of pings as a good idea, and suddenly that's it. I have that worry that if another guy comes to you with another great idea and you like the guy, then that's going to be the story and the lore that we have to focus on. And I get what you're saying, where you're saying that we don't have to take part in those Let stories, but that Let story is official lore that will progress the official lore. Yet when you reference back to the Fall of Dominion, Tornadium and Sure Shot wrote themselves into lore because as individual players they just made it lore for them. So you are taking away our autonomy. It's disappointing to hear. I just thought there would be more care with it.
You mind if I interject a little bit? This is Decimus speaking. I didn't want to interrupt.
Sure, go for it.
I really appreciate what Solitaire is saying there. One of the things I really appreciated about FOM as a youth growing up was the unscripted, just organization of everything, which kind of goes against each other, right? It's unscripted, but it's organized by their player base, and I have a lot of fond memories of that. Excuse me. However, I don't feel like having a backstory would necessarily take away from that. Maybe it's a bit of a bummer to know that maybe incoming laws will already be, scripted by, a group of individuals. And be that as it may, I don't think it really takes away from autonomy at its core, because, there's still going to be a lot of unscripted events that are going to occur. Solitaire, I'm sure, is going to be a part of them, and many of the individuals in this chat. It's just more so, I guess, about knowing what's coming that feels like it's kind of killing it for me, but not necessarily feeling like my autonomy is being taken away.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I appreciate you chiming in, Decimus. Cheers, dude. I see it from that point as well. I'm fine with Let events being kind of a take part, but what happens if that take part doesn't really kick off the way you expected it to? Because FOM was at its best when we all got together on fucking Manhattan for a Senate meeting, and we all stood around trolling the senators, and we had the fucking coup d'etat, and we had fucking people running in and nading the shit out of everything. But that still progressed the story in different ways because factions and political parties wanted to progress their own agendas. That's how we had the fucking free trade zone. And that created so many great moments of roleplay and lore for GOM, LED, FTC. I mean, even created a little mini war between Boss and GOM because they got tired of our shit because of it. Do you not think that we could pivot the LET team to be more like, okay, let's look at it as a sort of political agenda that we want to push through the Senate? Like, do it that way, where it's more of a kind of, we want to vote on these topics. Use the GIS in that way. But don't say there's this LET event happening on this world and, you should absolutely come and take part. And if you do take part, we'll give you a bonus, because then it's almost becoming a play to win model, where we have to follow Gianni's storyline because Gianni's the Shadow Emperor because he decided he was.
I like that take on it. Like,
Yeah.
the
We wanted to include the histories, etc., the laws. Sorry, it's Bob here. Would it not be better to have that actually scripted within the confines of the council? As in, let players create the history from based on what we remember. Granted,
Yeah.
it's been nearly a decade, has it?
Because, there ain't much about Dane Solitaire in the fucking echelons of history, but Jesus, I went to war with some people and I did gank the Senate. I'd like to think that's been remembered in some capacity, whether I care to or not. I'm not, in any way trying to play favorites. But, I contributed, and suddenly I ain't done a shit. But the LET team should always be a guiding hand, not a forced structure. And I know you're telling me it's not going to be forced, but the Senate was always pivotal for those big moments of what we know we're going to do next, or what shit's going to kick off, or how it's going to kick off in this way or that way. And if we take away from what made the Senate great, we take away for a lot of the fun that FOM had. And I always got excited when there was a Senate meeting because I knew shit was about to kick off. There was going to be a war, there was going to be a fucking battle, there was going to be a planet taken, there was going to be this, there was going to be that. The Senate was a pivotal part to everything we did. Whether we agree or disagree to that fact, I don't care. It is fact. And that LET team and what you're trying to do with it just feels like it's going to take away from a lot of what made FOM great.
So let me kind of step in here a little bit, and I understand as far as like the autonomous part, and I know I spoke on this at least a few days ago as far as like how pivotal things were back in the old days with FOM, where the player drivenness of the roleplay of just the community in general is what made it such a fantastic part of, I dare say, a lot of people's lives as far as their time within this game. I see where you're coming from as far as the set story prior to the beta being pushed out that was set in, but what I'm gonna kind of also piggyback off of what Decimus said earlier is that it doesn't entirely mean that Let's just gonna be controlling every aspect of the lore as we know it. And at the end of the day, it is and always will be still focused solely on what the players decide to do and going forward from that. But what Yoshi's saying on that one is technically correct. It's not so much that it's forcing a specific lore and always will be to the entirety of the player base, and either you can follow it or you're kind of left behind. It is always going to be that kind of like guiding hand where, We just kind of like, okay, hey, this happened, so what's going to happen from here type thing. Which is why there's been the posts in global events kind of highlighting some of the stuff that the players themselves are doing.
I get that as well. I feel like it's still going to put focus on individual players that, you know, and it's not to say I'm in any way salty against individual players having some spotlight on them, but they should earn that spotlight rather than be given it. And they should earn that spotlight through playing the game like everyone else. James Aben joined this game like the rest of us, knowing no one in this story, no one in these factions, and made himself known through the way he roleplayed and the way he conducted himself individually. He earned the right to be known as fucking James Aben shoot you in the face because he fucking went and did the work. I appreciate that Gianni has this fantastic lore and this story that he wants to tell, but he still has to fucking earn it like the rest of us.
I have a question though. No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Before you get into it, I get it that you feel that Gianni needs to earn it, and I completely understand that. I personally have not contributed any lore towards this game in the entirety duration of the game of playing it, ever. I've done my fair share of roleplay, I've made my fair share of stories for nobody to ever read them, ever. So, you know, I'm just one of those small individuals, and I'll just continue to do my own little thing by myself because it's what makes me happy, I suppose. But in regards to Gianni's story, a lot of his story based on like how the Shadow Emperor comes to be is mostly based on him forming the Confederation and also bringing about the alliance between EC and BOS. I wasn't present for that war, but I'm pretty sure that was a huge part of Face of Mankind for a lot of players. I'm sure a lot of people will remember like the whole EC BOS Confederation war that took place, and you know, them basically taking over the entire galaxy with Reefer and whoever was in charge of BOS at the time. Maybe it was Born to Lose or something like that, or the Claw or something like that. But I'm pretty sure that they went up against everybody and steamrolled the entire game or some stuff. As I said, I wasn't present for that part of the game. I'm pretty sure that a lot of like his background story is more or less based on that part, that continuation of like that whole Confederacy sort of thing. That's all I know, more or less, from what I've read. I haven't actually read Gianni's story. Like, I've just said that, you know, it would be really cool for that to take place, you know, at some point in the game. There is no forcing of the hand on it, sort of thing. You know, and going back to the LET being that sort of like, these are events, these are what take place, that's just an example of what could happen. Because we haven't fully mapped out what LET is going to be. We just had this idea that that would be a really cool thing to put into place because it'll bring some players together, and some players will probably ignore it, and that's fine. But, you know, it allows some players to, you know, have that starting of like, oh, you know, I want to start and do this sort of story sort of thing. Is there anybody that I can talk to in my faction that will potentially, you know, help me, sort of, and they could then go to their, you know, they could then go to like a story person that they know is a story person, and they could speak to that person. For example, Sharif, who's currently in this channel, he's the LET member for CMG. So if somebody in CMG joined the faction and wanted to become, you know, wanted to start role-playing in the game, and he started, you know, doing bits and pieces, he could probably then go to Sharif and be like, hey man, I want to get involved, I want to do this, I want to push my character forward and that sort of thing. They're not designed there to push a current story in place, i.e. Gianni. Gianni just plays that, you know, he will eventually play an LET-based character. He's not going to be rank 7 forever. Everybody here that has become a rank 7 within this community, no one's going to be rank 7 forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You know, but you as a player will pass that along to other people. You know, you'll pass those events along to other people. Yeah, LET is very much sort of like, you know, it's big work in progress sort of thing, and I do appreciate like the comments towards it. You know, we're not trying to box people in, we're not trying to make people follow this, follow that. But yeah, I would genuinely, Dave, I'd have a conversation with him and read some of the background on it. I'm not fully up to scratch of, you know, how it is, but when we were in phase 2 testing and stuff like that, we did like a little event that pitted the Shadow Emperor versus John Maxwell, Director Maxwell at the time, of the GIS. And you know what? A lot of people were really interested in it. We got a lot of pull from it. Like, there was, like, everybody in the channel started talking about, oh, this is cool, you know, that, you know, stuff is happening, sort of thing. Even if it's role play, sort of thing. People were interested. People were talking about it. People were like, oh, John's getting his ass kicked by some random EC grunt, sort of thing. It's like, it's those sorts of things. And I suppose in a way, it's sort of like nothing is set in stone. You know, Face of Mankind is that role-playing game where you take the bull by the horns and you do whatever you want with it. You know, you could be the next emperor or president or Senator Dane. Like, it depends on what you want to do as a character. You know, the last thing we want is to make people follow a set-in-stone storyline that's there. It's just there because somebody's, you know, working towards making it there.
I get that. It's what you said when you mentioned about, you know, going to a let character and be like, hey, I want to do this with my character. What's to stop that let character going, lol, no, get fucked? And I'm not saying they will. Individual bias is hard to put aside when you have beef, and beef is a big fucking thing in FOM. People hold grudges for the pettiest of shit. It's hard to get behind having to go to another player to tell them that you want to do something with your character. I understand where you came from as well, where you've done some lore and you've done some roleplay and no one remembers it. And again, I keep speaking about the fact that I was R7 for so much because no one fucking remembers I was R7 of GOM, because no one gives a shit. And I'm cool with that. It's just the way it is. But I think the let team, as you said, is still being worked on. And I think Decimus kind of mentioned it earlier. Maybe stuff like this should only really be announced when it's got all the kinks worked out and you've gone back to everyone in the development team and the lore team and you've sense checked it, you've reread it and sense checked it again. Because when we're announcing things that are just basically the formation of an idea and then you are met with questions and criticism like I'm giving you right now, you can't always fall back on the it's an idea, it's a work in progress, because when things are just a work in progress, they will evolve, they will pivot, they will steer, and it starts to become more of a mutated idea than an evolved idea.
I like that narrative.
You don't know what the let team is yet, so don't tell us. Work on it and give it to us when you think it's fully fleshed out and everyone has had some contribution to it and you've got a lore team. So they are pivotal to these ideas, because the people who are in your lore team are the people who are the most passionate about telling the story of what FOM is going to be. And my contribution to it is use the Senate, because that's where the real lore evolved from. It always did.
I totally agree with
yeah.
that.
Do you mind if I have a point? So I understand that there's probably a lot of people in the chat right now that are starting to snooze because it's a lot of lore talk, and there are some people who don't care about lore. They just want to get in and beef, and that's perfectly fair. We need those people. I think though why this is a particularly important issue is how this might potentially end up affecting the gameplay on a wider scale. We had a lot of people over on the GOM Discord who seemed to not care much at all about this Gianni storyline that we've been going on for a while, because at the end of the day, you know, Gianni either has the chops to pull off having this whole Confederacy government outside of the DM and make it work, or he doesn't, and that's going to be content. if he tries to do that, and like we as a faction, just for as an example, just one faction out of the many here don't like it, then that's something that we can fight, and that's fun. I think it's a little silly that it's revolving around a real player rather than just like maybe a new made up one. It could have been a made up antagonist, but I think that was something a lot of people were willing to forgive. It's just we started seeing a few other things that made it feel like this is going to affect a little bit of a wider scale. So Gianni has this pet project of EC, the Shadow Core, and all of that, and that storyline now great. Well, now we also have Stat and Chance has AE, and John Maxwell has GIS, and these are mechanically affecting things. These are new factions popping up. When LED, I haven't seen any of them in game, and we're talking about making a GIS thing. Like I just think some of that stuff should be perhaps not focused on so much.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of time. If I can, this is Scotty. I think there's plenty of time to like hash this out. Dane and a couple of you other guys raised like really good like points. Like, I mean, FOM is about like the core of FOM is about what the individual player can like manufacture their story and then like kind of make a following like around themselves and progress it that way, having like a mainline solidified interaction just kind of seems like yeah, like you can have like these like events, like, right, these story events, right, and that's like a good like way from a development standpoint to keep content flowing in a sense. But FOM's content is what you make it, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's how I always felt it like was.
Content was based upon interactions between players,
Yeah.
players within specific rank and structures, and eventually factions and up to the council. The pressures each faction puts against each other creates its own content. If you wanted an outside lore team, for example, those aliens, if I remember correctly, it's a good way to introduce outside pressure, forcing the reactions from each of the various factions. But it all came down to the interactions between people. That's what made it good.
That's what makes it stand out in comparison to multiple other MMOs that have come and gone, and I feel that's why a lot of us are back here. Is we miss that feeling, like we miss that feeling. But I think Yoshi has a good idea. Like I think Yoshi does have a good idea. It's just, like it needs to be hammered out.
Flesh it out in private. Still allow the story to remain interactable. If it's an opportunity for the players to engage this story in a way where we can even compel the devs themselves to kind of go with our narrative and shift it, I think that provides more content as well, and that's still more or less unscripted. We might know what's coming. We don't know exactly how to interact with it just yet. And the point that the guy had about it maybe being a random antagonist rather than a player itself makes your story a lot more compelling, because it's just something to engage with rather than somebody kind of playing a role that's given to them, like Solitaire was saying. But again, just flesh it out in private a little bit more. We don't want to rank on you. I don't think it's a bad idea by any stretch. I think people are scared that their right to make decisions and it impact the game overall is going to be taken away. I don't think it is, but I feel like that's what the narrative is right now.
Yeah, like, just to add a little caveat on that, one thing I fucking did was I allied GOM with FDC. No one ever fucking knew that day would come, but I did it. And me and Dietrich, the former general of FDC, I fucking miss that guy. I hope he comes back. Fuck whoever takes over for FDC. He's not my Dietrich.
Welcome
I'm
to
just
your
joking.
storage access. Please select the
I did that and because I wanted to do that, because I wanted to make GOM more militant. And I didn't need to sense check it with a lore team, but it would have been nice to speak to a lore team or a let team and just check in with, maybe I can do some fun RP with this. What do you think? How would you suggest I go about it? Could I have done it in a different way? But just to end on it, work on it. we need to iron out those fucking kinks.
Yeah, and look, you know,
Sorry, go ahead.
there is a lore team in place that are, and they're the current goal of the current lore team is to get the wiki up and running and what we call the Vault of Mankind up and running, so that it restores the history of the game. So everything from O2 all the way up to the end of Fall of the Dominion. That's the main objective at the moment from the lore team, is to get all of that sort of stuff all sorted out, because there's lots of different stories out there. We've managed to, you know, pull back like loads and loads of archive stories from the past that gives us new information on things like the real name of the alien race that exists within Face of Mankind. There was a name for it at one point that Marco had written out, and just sort of like left on the side. You know, there's lots of different things out there that we found, and it's, yeah, a lot of it's a work in progress, you know, and that is the way it will be for the next couple of years. I say couple, it's, you know, 2027 is our expected sort of like release window, but even then that could move. You know, we moved our open beta release from 6 months ago to August, so you know, things like, you know, the
It's
word I like,
it's complicated.
yeah, the word I like using is when it's done. You know, when it's done, we'll then release, that sort of thing. So things like LET, right now it doesn't really exist. There is no set in stone LET members. There is no, you know, there are story characters that may exist, but they are player characters that people will meet along the way regardless, because everybody plays a character. I play a character, Bob plays a character, Cordwell plays a character, Check Sky plays a character. There is no, you know, in regards to GIS, AE, and the Shadow Emperor story, I actually like the idea of the Shadow Emperor being an external presence rather than an actual character player itself. But that would be a conversation I have to go away and have with Gianni himself. And we'll see what happens with that, because he might just tell me, no, I'm just going to do it anyway. And then
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, and I have to pick on it. I'm sorry, dude. It's
fine.
You're having that idea now, and you're saying that you're going to go and talk to Gianni, and it's like, cool, do it. Don't tell us. Just work it out. Iron out those kinks. Come to us when you have, again, sense checked it with your team, the dev team, sense checked it with the lore team, because if they're not in on this, then what are they doing? Because they're the ones who are going to be most pivotal to this. But just, you know, I know this is a really hard thing to try and put together and get people excited, and the
It'll be
people
done
that
when
are
it's
in
done. Yeah.
this Discord and are playing the game and helping you test it are excited. But the more that we keep getting drip fed these working ideas, the more that you're going to create and sow dissension throughout everyone. And the more that you're just going to create more opportunity for yourself to have more work where you're having to spend all this time answering these questions, because we've only been given half of something or a quarter of an idea.
So
go away, work on it, think on it.
I don't want to turn this into an argument, Dane.
No, I know.
But you telling me that instead of telling the community what I'm going to do versus just saying nothing, because I could sit here and just say nothing all night.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean in relation to the long-term progression of FOM, the things with the let ideas, stuff where it's all about what the player is going to do after launch. When you still yet don't have that fully formed idea, if this let thing is still not fully formed, but it's going to be very important to the ongoing success of this game, then it's something that needs to either be worked on and discussed with the right people prior to announcing it, or something that you just hold off on announcing until a later date. That's not
I
to
think we
deny
still
you-
need to give the devs the opportunity to kind of roadmap things, and if they want to do it verbally or on a chart, it's kind of up to them.
A roadmap, you say, Decimus?
Well, I'm just saying because I'm rather new here, so I don't want to
No,
ruffle
I
any
know.
feathers. But
It's all good, it's all good.
they're getting a lot of pushback, and it's because people are passionate here about the game. I started the game like 20 years ago, so I get that. It's just one of those things where they're gonna bump their head along the way here and there. We don't want to give them too much grief about it. You know what I mean? We're kicking at a dead horse right now, especially since it's not alive, up and running. And I get that that's your gripe, having to hear about it when it's not fleshed out. But again, they have to be given the opportunity to bump their head a bit and talk things through with the community as well. This is an opportunity here that you wouldn't have received to really voice this had they just held on to it. And I feel like you still would have been disappointed on day one that they launched the project. You know, this particular
before
project.
Dane
Yeah, that's
responds,
valid.
Dane, look, so the reason why we talk about these ideas going in on the table and stuff like that is obviously also to get feedback from the community. Because as Decimus says, if I just didn't tell you anything about the LET team, and then day one saying, right, by the way, we announced the LET team, these people playing, this is what they're going to be doing. In the next community voice, I guarantee you'd have exactly the same questions.
Hey,
that you're
Monte,
asking
thanks
me
for the
now.
follow, bro. Welcome aboard to the
I
Viking
don't-
Nation.
I'm
Really
not-
appreciate it.
I don't want you to get the wrong idea and think that I'm in any way against discussing
I get that.
you know ideas.
But we have stuff that we haven't told you guys. There is lots and lots of stuff in terms of what we're working on, all that sort of stuff that we have conversations about. We don't tell half the people that are in this channel for the sole reason that it would probably really upset you.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Riley,
So,
thanks for the follow as
we
well,
can
but
put- we
welcome
can
aboard to
put
the
this to
Viking
bed and
Nation.
put a pin
Greatly
in it.
appreciate it.
And I want to just end it with what your thoughts were, at least, to when I spoke about the Senate being a pivotal part to any sort of story development, keeping that player autonomy, but not having the let team be a almost crucial part of it. And I appreciated that I got some support from other people in this chat who chimed in, and we got some +1s in the chat as well. So just your thoughts on that, or if not, we can just leave it here and you and I can have a chat later, or we can just pin it.
I've never had an interaction with the Senate team before in any version of FOM. The closest I got to being around the Senate in Nexion was when Jackal brought me on as a eyes and ears to like talk to a couple of people for built, and that was about it. Like I never ever gotten near anything to do with the Senate. I'm not the best person to answer that question, because I, for one, I support any player roleplay. If you want to make a Senate event, make a Senate event and do this and do that. And if you want to elect a president, elect a president. That's not my remit. Like I'm happy with whatever you decide. Like as players in general, you guys decide what you decide you want to do.
So
as long as it doesn't involve on killing the game, that's my concern.
So the biggest thing we don't want to do is we don't want to do any GM oversight. Like we don't want to have any sort of like, like there's a GM that comes on, he says, right, this is the way you have to do things. Like, oh no, you're planning to take over all the colonies in the game? No, we don't feel that's a good idea. Wait, you took over all the colonies in the game? Why have you done that? You're going to get reprimanded, you're going to get faction revoked, that sort of prived, all that sort of stuff. We're not going to do any of that sort of stuff. We're not going to repeat past mistakes that duplex systems may have made. Nexion, I know, definitely made in some points of times where they prived our sevens because they made decisions that went against their sort of like inner workings of how the game was supposed to work. We're not there to police, factions. The point of like, for example, going into it, and I will talk about the LET idea that, is still a work in progress. The idea behind the whole GM structure, the whole like dev sort of thing is all of the devs, they play their own characters, right? There isn't a bar John Maxwell being an R7 of GIS, there isn't a dev slash GM R7 of a faction. Okay? Stafford works on the lore team, but he's not necessarily a developer of FOM. Like, he doesn't work on the development side of Empire Rising. He is a part of the staff, yes, but he's not a coder, he's not a world builder, he's not a, you know, content designer, that sort of thing. He doesn't work on the systems that put this game up there. Okay? That's where I don't partake in any sort of, yes, I have Asian Coalition, but that's all I do. I just talk and roleplay and stuff like that. I may not even have Asian Coalition in the future. I might just say, if we ever make it, you know, if at point in the future when we're able to make new factions and Asian Coalition comes back, I'll probably say, well, it's a player-made faction, so players can run it. I won't have much part of it. If anything, I'll probably be like a rank 1 or a rank 2, like the good old days. The point I'm trying to make is that GMs are completely separate to the game. GMs police the rules. So if you're being racist in game, or if you're hacking, or if you're bullying someone, or you're being toxic, or you're trying to blackmail someone, or you're trying to do something that is against the game policy, you know, like the general rules of like people in general, and of course Discord rules, then that's when the GM team will step in. They'll step in to police players for breaking rules that hurt other players, because that's not very nice. You know, they're not there to police factions, and if they do get caught policing factions, then our lead GM, Mr. Camel, will get rid of them so fast before you can blink. You know, that whole GM side is ran completely by Mr. Camel, and I trust him to do that. It goes so much so to say that I don't know the GMs that he is taking on board as of yet, but he has an idea of who he's going to bring on as GMs to help police the game. They're all adults. They all know what they're doing, and hopefully they'll be here soon. But right now, Mr. Camel is dealing with real life stuff, so we've put that on hold. In regards to LET, they are just players within a faction. That's pretty much it. They're just players within a faction. They're not GMs. They don't have any special abilities or anything like that. They're there just to guide and help people. So we're not taking any applications for them. As I said, it's not a fully designed, built-out idea that we've announced to say, right, this is how it's going to work. It could change within the next 3 to 6 months that we don't have an LET team. We just decide not to go with it. It is still on the table, but as I've mentioned to my staff team many times before, it is just on the table. It is literally just there on the table, and we're not really doing anything with it right now. So yeah, you never know. As I said, in the next couple of months, it could go that way. In regards to John Maxwell being rank 7 at GIS, John is and you might not see it as like, oh, it's not very fair that, you know, like a developer is actually playing a rank 7 of a faction that you can't actually play as because it doesn't exist in the game. It's more of a case of that guy has done so much work to try and make GIS a actual functional department more than anything. Like, I've seen him write like pages. He's got like a Bible of like how GIS should work, and he's got a Discord for GIS where he sits and talks with all the old GIS members that weren't GMs, that were actual players within the GIS from like 02 FOM all the way up to Fall of the Dominion. People that were in that MIB faction and Men in Black and stuff like that. You know, he talks to everybody, and he sort of like gathers ideas and stuff, and he's written like a Bible on like how it all comes together. You know, he's done things like the Bible of like Dominion laws and stuff like that, and all that sort of stuff. Yes, the Dominion laws will be done by players themselves, but he's pretty much written like a guidance. Like, this is how the Dominion laws existed back then. This is how they were scripted. These are law number 1, law number 2, and so on, so on and so forth. I have nothing to do with that. That's all John. If John wasn't a dev, his first thing when he came to this community, before he even joined the team, was that he was previously in GIS in some capacity, and he wanted to just really expand it in this new version of FOM, because that's what he's passionate about. He's passionate about writing for GIS. He wants nothing to do with the rest of the game. He just wants to write about GIS and make it the coolest secret, like, you know, puppet master sort of like government agency that exists out there. And there's some cool ideas behind it. There's some cool things coming with it, you know. And he's actually quite well liked by old GIS members that have come on board. You know, he sat down there. He sat and spoken to things like Winter's Frost for hours. Like hours on it. He could tear my ear off. He often speaks with lots of different people about it. So when it comes to GIS and John being rank 7 of that, I'm just going to leave him with it. He seems to be the most capable person to do that job. And whatever he decides to make of it is whatever he decides to make of it. He's not ever going to enforce anything. He's not going to use his dev powers to make things happen or anything like that. You know, he just wants what's best for the game and the community. I hope that clears up that whole segment around, you know, like the Senate and roleplay and factions and stuff like that. Because I'm sure that there's quite a lot of other people are waiting to ask me questions about what's been happening and that sort of thing.
Yeah, don't worry, I leave the floor open. Cheers for taking the time though, Yoshi. I do appreciate it, always.
That's fine, that's not a problem. So, does anybody have... I know that quite a few people have joined the chat. Do people have more questions about the game? Factions aside... Sorry, not factions aside. Let's see. Do people have more questions? I'm here. Come on.
As long as we're still having Senate meetings, yeah. As long as that's still going ahead.
What's still going ahead, Caldwell?
Senate meetings.
I'm sure they will be, yeah. I'm sure. I've seen that there's some chatter in the faction chat about wanting to do Senate meetings and stuff like that. I'm sure that people have stuff in motion. I'm not going to talk too much on it. I don't want to spoil anything for players. I just want, you know, want people to enjoy it. Right. Let's talk about. I know that this is something that. So this is something that was. I was briefed on. Let's talk about an elephant in the room. On the launch of the game, we had a production material issue where we only launched with a couple of colonies that basically only provided people with half the resources required to create basically all the mainstream items. So the two materials we're talking about is iron and chrome that were not available to all the players within the within the game, and it did cause a lot of upset, especially when I decided to give iron and chrome to American Enterprises to sell to the rest of the game. First and foremost, for everyone here that has felt like I've just basically, you know, done this on purpose or, you know, that sort of thing, I want everybody to know that I didn't do this on purpose. When we came to decide what planet, you know, what worlds would be best to start testing the multiplayer functionality on, I sat in a room with two of the devs and I said, if we just go with the free Earth colonies and we go for Aurelia, we go with Titan Station, not Titan Station, Yukon, De Morgan's Castle, and the cloning facility and the apartment facility, and that was it. We had no plans to add P51 on top. I then thought, as I was making a post for the Reddit post that we put out that got picked up by massively, we decided we'll include P51 because it makes sense. Having a corp world out there kind of makes sense. And we thought that would be okay. That would be fine. I didn't check, so I'm basically saying it's my mistake as to why Chrome and Iron wasn't provided to everybody in the game. I just didn't check. I didn't check what resources were going to make what. You know, we had lots of tests going on in the early days on like where minerals were and like, you know, if the production stuff worked. We had all the items created and tested and made sure that they all worked. And they do. Most of them, 90% of the items you can create and use within the game. There are some items that you can't create as a result of there not being PAX Prime, where you can't get gold at the moment to make a STAM implant. But I mean, besides that, it's one of the things that if people need to test STAM implants, we can throw some in the marketplace for the time being. It's we want to avoid now from putting up more world servers. Now, it was actually an evening where Darian came to me and I was asking him a question, and you know, Darian said to me that so I don't know if anyone knows this, but I have conversations with Darian, right? We're not it's not a case of it's not a case of like you could go to Darian, ask him a question, and he'll ask me to do something, sort of thing. We're friends because I spend a lot of time in the GOM Discord. I speak to a lot of the Gombies. I play other games with a lot of the community. World of Warcraft, you know, Mecha Break, lots of other games. Aneurysm 4? I don't know, I can't remember. Great games. But we often have lots of chats, right? So it's really good that I have lots of chats with different people. And this is how I learned about there being, you know, people not very happy. I'm just going to say it straight and foremost to you. If you're not, and I don't want to be like, you know, don't go to Darian, but if you're not happy with decisions that have been made, voice them in the community voices. Say to me, you know, when I'm asking people, have you got questions to ask me? Ask me those questions, because then I can answer them and I can tell you how it is. So, you know, I can tell you like the mistakes I've made, the bits and pieces I've done, this, that, and the other. I'm not perfect. I'm not, you know, and I try to avoid using Chat GPT as much as possible to, you know, predetermine answers and stuff like that. So everything we talk about, you know, as Dane says, he's actually right. You know, a lot of the ideas we have, we probably shouldn't. We should ask the community if we're moving the right way forward. But if we've got things that we think are going to be good surprises, we should probably iron them all out before we decide to say, right, okay, you know, this is the be all and end all sort of thing. So one of the things I'm trying to get to is, obviously there were some players out there that had some issues with the iron and the chrome, and I sat in a call with Darian. I said, right, okay, look, instead of trying to fix it by putting more and more resources on the marketplace for discounted prices, because that's one of the things I did. I was like, right, okay, well, I'll generate myself some iron and chrome, I'll stick it on the marketplace, I'll throw a global event out there to say, you know, this has happened. A cache of iron has been stolen right underneath the FTC's noses and put out there to the public, sort of thing. I just said at that point, right, okay, let's put up, was it Kepler's Dome? No, it was one of the two, Kepler's Dome. Yeah, I think it was Kepler's Dome, which then provided players with Chrome. And then once Kepler's Dome was up, I thought, okay, well then people can create X, Y, and Z, but there's still an iron deficiency. So we had no, sorry, Ceres Delta was put up first for Chrome, and then Kepler's Dome was put up for iron. One of the two. I can't remember which one. Or was it Titan Station? Titan Station, I think, for iron. But we solved it by putting those worlds up. So I know that doesn't solve, you know, the exclusivity of me giving items to Staten to spread out to his department to put on the marketplace. I think my idea behind it was that these items would be fought over. You know, people would physically fight over them and stuff like that, and or maybe they'll go to AE and try and make trade agreements to buy up some of those resources. But that's not what happened entirely. People just pretty much went to war with people and, you know, declared everyone like KOS and, you know, this, that. And I mean, it's to be expected. It's Face of Mankind. I mean, you do whatever you feel that you're going to do. The ideas that I have that somebody might make are probably not going to be the ideas or the decisions that you make towards it. And I am reading. I see Malachi thing said about why so much focus on these factions that don't exist rather than just putting people in existing factions and expanding it later. Also, why the heavy focus on lore from way back rather than just creating up new lore for a new experience? Why the open beta for proper multiplayer visibility?
Thank you for using the security pad.
Yeah, you know, I just want to put out there that I don't hold any favoritism towards any factions in this game. Like, if I really held a favoritism towards a faction, it would probably be Asian Coalition, but Asian Coalition doesn't exist right now, so, you know, I can't play that faction anytime soon. I wish I could, but I can't, so... Oh, it looks like the servers are crashing more than often. Okay, so Manhattan and Ground Zero are back up again. Sorry about that. But yeah, no, you know, we understand that there are some heaving issues, you know, with the resources, and hopefully that's all been ironed out now with the release of Titan Station, Kepler's Dome, and Ceres Delta, so everybody has a chance to, you know, mine all the resources that they need to. I see that a lot of the faction pools are filling up. People are... I think the server's gone down again.
Which one did? Which one went down again?
Big
Manhattan's been on and off today.
Yeah, it's just issues. It's fine. Right, so yeah. I'm just going to answer Malachi Takamoto's question. Why the heavy focus on lore from way back rather than just creating a new lore for a new experience? Well, that's what we've been talking about tonight. I'll have a chat with the lore team, and you know, we'll come up with an idea. We're only a week old now of open beta, so nothing has really been set in stone. I've not seen any massive like stories set in stone yet, so we're still early days. And I suppose it's my idea really from the lore team is just to have that background. You know, it's a.
Sorry, go ahead.
In regards to why the open beta before proper multiplayer visibility, well, we had a phase 2 testing phase, okay? And we invited nearly 195 players. We had, I think, roughly about 190 accounts on phase 2. And we found that roughly 10 of that 195 were actually playing the patches that we were releasing. So the information that we got back from people was little to none. And a lot of the times it was actual players helping the developers like directly and like feeding that information into them and them going away and fixing it. So a lot of the time, like you can go through a lot of the bug reports, they're pretty much all made by the same people from what I've carried over from the old iteration of the forum. And as one of the things we found out with multiplayer was that the way that multiplayer works is that essentially it's two packets, right? So it's two people trying to talk to each other. But when something goes wrong, there's a split packet, and that split packet tells us what goes wrong. And that allows us to fix the issue that's going wrong. When you only have like one person in the game just testing something, you don't get split packets because it requires somebody else to be in the picture for something like that to go wrong. So that's why we have this open test now. That's why this open beta exists, so that we have lots and lots of people hammering out the issues. Like they're constantly banging on all the stuff that's broken, and we're being notified about it all the time, which puts it in the... It also provides us lots of different perspectives of the issue happening. For example, we can fix a marketing issue, a market terminal issue, and then somebody else will have a completely different market terminal issue, and we'll find out about that, and then we fix that, and then we fix the other one. And eventually, all the issues around the marketing terminal get fixed, and they all work. Whereas previously, before, we just had like one person trying it, and they would only find one or two issues. So that's why we have it around now, so that it's like, you know, more people are testing, we're getting more information to be able to fix all these problems. Otherwise, if we did closed testing for such a long time, we just wouldn't get much anywhere. A lot of the time during closed testing, we spent just reintroducing functions within the game that didn't work.
I think it's important to kind of note there as well, though, is that with the open beta launching, about a week ago, we, at least from the outside looking in, as far as the progress that we've made and the holes that we are starting to get patched out, we've made more progress within the last week than some of, the last few months, with just versus the 10 people that we had consistently in the phase 2 closed versus the hundreds of reports that we've gotten from the open beta. At the end of the day, without that kind of information that's being provided now, that the stuff that we needed to get fixed wouldn't have been fixed for months, because we wouldn't have known about it until it got fucked with, essentially. Like, for example, when we first started in the last, the days prior after that, there was issues where, we had default skin characters essentially, like, just all over the place. Like, there was, I held a stream a few days ago, there was some parts where I couldn't even get into the VG because they were just all kind of just there blocking it. Now that's not a thing at all. So, at the end of the day, is it annoying to deal with because certain aspects won't work because of how it is now? Yes, I can understand that. But you also have to understand is that it's going to continue to be a work in progress, and since we are only a week in, it's going to get ironed out.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of this stuff is going to get ironed out. It is going to be a work in progress. There are going to be times where, you guys jump on like for one night and like nothing's going to work, and then all of a sudden we'll release a hotfix or something, and then it's going to start working again. One of the big things that was discovered, especially by Link, for example, is the whole thing that I posted about, where you can basically just give out copious amounts of UC to people within a faction. We never knew that existed when the faction tools came out, and the faction tools haven't been changed since we released them, like, 4 or 5 months ago? So for 4 or 5 months we had no idea that existed. We just thought, That was it. In fact, a lot of the time people report that the event log doesn't even work. It crashes their client. So the fact that the event log is now working is a complete change. I still can't access the event log.
No, I'm the one
different-
that actually reported that because every time I hit it, it kept crashing my game.
Yeah, and we knew that that was a thing, but we weren't sure why that was a thing. And it might be that the event log is empty, so that's why it crashes. And now that the event log is full for some people, that might be the reason as why, you know, like it might be as simple as because that function is not populated with queries, that's why it crashes people's clients. So it's interesting. It's, you know, that sort of stuff is very interesting. Does anybody have any other questions?
Yep. I think I have one that a lot of other people in here are thinking. I know Link doesn't have a mic, so he can't ask the question, but a lot of us want to know, like...
I do, it's just not working very well.
Oh, there you are.
So
well,
please
anyways,
ask.
the question is what's the technical side of things at how's that going? Do you have like a timeline that you can share with us of like what are the big features that are going to be worked on? And of course, everybody's itching to get combat going, right? But we understand generally that that's going to take some time. If you could rant about that for a little bit, that'd be great.
Cool. Okay, so I can do one better. First and foremost, I'm going to make an announcement. So, for a very long time, we have lacked a guy who does media, and whilst he has otherworldly views on the way that I do things, which is good because I need somebody to say that's not good, don't do it, don't say it, don't put it out there. Dana's been doing some work for us and the team. I had a long conversation with him. He's a really cool guy, actually, at heart. As much as he might tend to troll some people sometimes or get underneath people's skins, he is actually a really good guy. So Dane's actually going to come on board and he's going to do some media work for us within the team. And one of the things I asked him to do is a roadmap, because it's something that we don't have. And it's some of the things we'll be working on going forward. And it gives you an idea of where we're at and what we're going to be doing and, you know, these sorts of things. So I'm going to share this roadmap with you.
I actually also have one thing to share. I need to share my screen, so I'll wait for you to share that first.
I have to download the image first.
Rip. Well, I can quickly share my screen. One second.
No, it's fine. Let me do it. I like doing these things.
I can't send this to you on Discord because it's too large a file, so I have to share my screen to show you. But you show that one first.
Gotta make sure I don't share the memes.
Ha.
I like how Dane withheld that roadmap comment all the way up until now.
I am a master troll, sir. I am a master troll.
You wanted to let it out earlier, but you had to wait on
it. So badly.
So, here we have the new roadmap of Empire Rising. So this is some of the stuff that we're currently working on. So for August 2025, with the release of pseudo multiplayer. So best way to describe it is pseudo multiplayer is what is currently in the game, right? That is that the server updates your position and where you are, and it then basically shows you where your character is in a set of 4 stages. So you move, it updates, it move, you updates, it move, it updates, and then after 4 times, that's where your character actually is. So remember that when you're beefing people, that it's the 4th character that you have to shoot that appears as that's who you have to kill. The better combat sync is a part of that, you know, as that progresses forward. There'll be improvements around that. Especially part of that is also the network optimization, the amount of crashes, the disconnects, all the things that happen around, like you not being able to access worlds. The worlds are always up. Sometimes they do go down, and that's because the world server just has enough, basically, and it just says nope. Those things are being worked on. Economy fixes, like the marketplace instability, the terminal fixes, the crashing related around storage issues. So a couple of things that have been raised around storage issues are, I currently have too much I have too much in my storage. I don't have enough space. Why can't you just give me more storage? It's not that simple. If we give 1,000 more blocks to one person, it gives 1,000 more blocks to everybody on the storage. And then that also increases the size of the database and how much the database has to record based on what you have. But there is a solution. There is a premium item in the game that exists, which extends your storage by 150 units for 30 days. 30 real life days, I think. We'll have to test it because we've not tested it yet. But the point of the item is that you use the item and it increases your storage by 150 units, which means you can store 150 more things in your storage container. That will be coming soon. There is no fixed time on it. It's a case of when it gets worked on, we'll test it out internally and then we'll push it out to everybody else to test. And that will be a case of sort of like, I don't know, we'll do something to do with the NPCs where there's a quest there and you'll go and talk to the NPC and the NPC will tell you to do something, and at the end of that quest he'll give you a storage token. He might say you need to manufacture armor that you give back to the NPC, sort of thing. Sort of like as a time sink for you to be able to get that storage. System fixes are things like the group issues that people are having, the department issues that people are having. One of the fixes recently came into play where you can now pay people in the department without you crashing. Just going back to the storage issue, we fixed faction pools, so you will no longer get an error or a time breakdown of you not being able to withdraw stuff. Back to the faction tools. We're working on the faction tools as we speak to get things up and running. We're working on the mission tools to get them, so that you can start earning your XP and your UC, your faction credits and all that sort of stuff. We want all the contracts to be working fully. Yes, you can set up a contract, but does it actually work? No, it doesn't actually work. You can just do the actual UI side of things. Of course, I mentioned less disconnects. That's all a part of network optimization. We recently put out a poll to say, what feature do you want in next? Boosters, backpacks, trade, arresting, full damage, and other bits and pieces. And everybody essentially voted for boosters and consumables. So right now, medkits work. Get yourself some medkits. Go and test out some combat with some people. Find out how much medkits actually do to keep you alive, because they do work now. The next big thing is the boosters, drugs, boosters, food, consumables. That's one of the big things that we're working on. One of the lesser things that are not featured in this roadmap, that is more or less complete and ready to push to open, won't come until next week, but that is the trading system. That is so that you can look at another character, hit E, open up trade, and you'll be able to send them like an item and UC as well, depending on what exactly you're trading. Especially drugs, you can trade drugs as well. Everything. That's the point. It will be something that we'll have to test as well, because it will require two people to stand still and look at each other in the eyes, hold hands, and push that trade button. You have to hold each other's hands to be able to trade. So, you know, one of the some of the other stuff that's coming in is backpacks. So you remember backpacks? I'm sure everybody remembers backpacks. Backpacks has loot in them. You know, they drop after you die. Right now, when people die, they just die. You don't see the animation of backpacks. That's something that we're working on to get back into the game. Arresting for the LED. So right now you can stun people, but nobody else is going to know that they're stunned except for the person being stunned. So we're trying to work on, you know, some sort of like threshold that it gets to a point of, you know, you've stunned that person and then you can arrest them. Full damage. Right now, when you jump off of a balcony, you try and commit seppuku or suicide. Highly don't recommend it. You don't die. You're basically Superman. You can fall from the highest building in FOM and not die. So that's something that we want to put back into the game. And then once all of that's done, once all of these improvements have been made, and a lot of the issues from the bug reports have been done and dusted, we can then start working on new old features. They're new features to the project, but they're old features to the game. And that is things like the multiplayer being synced, seeing other people's animations, Combat Zero being you can see people fight sort of thing. Improved aliens means we can spawn the aliens. We can actually spawn aliens right now, and they will attack people, but they won't actually... They're just weird. That you can kill them in one hit, they can attack players, they can kill people, but they are very weak. We want aliens to be improved. We want to be able to unleash aliens across a world and let them just go wild, and then have players fight back against them. We want to include things like droppable loot. So when you die, you look at somebody's backpack, that's going to be a part of the backpack. So when we see the backpack, it might just be that the backpack spawns and then disappears after the person dies, sort of thing. We want to be able to understand how that backpack works and how we put loot in that backpack and how it drops. But then also, when an alien dies, you'll be able to loot aliens. And then in November, we will be releasing Berlin, Tokyo, and Paris as additional worlds for people to go out and play about in. And yeah, that is pretty much where we are right now. Christmas is also a part of Q4, but we haven't gotten that far yet. We want to get August, September, and October done first, and then we want to work on November and December. So there might be an updated roadmap. Oh, there will be an updated roadmap instead of saying might, in November time, and we'll be able to provide you what 2026 looks like, as well as what we're going to be releasing in December. But for now, this is what we're working on. This is where we want to be for the game to be better than it currently is. Questions?
I have a clarifying question. You mentioned the backpacks part in August is going to include the loot pack that drops, right? What's the difference between that item, backpacks, right, in August, and then the droppable loot item in November?
So when backpacks come in, backpack is an animation. And right now you don't see the animations of other players, right?
Yeah.
So the animation of your backpack dropping, it might just be that it's an animation of a backpack dropping. So you might see the backpack and then it may just disappear right after. We need to understand how it's all going to work, sort of thing. So backpacks are going to go in, we're going to test it, and then we're going to see the packets as to why loot is not dropping, or maybe it does drop straight away. And if loot then does drop, then that's backpacks one and done. Like, we don't need to worry about that sort of thing. But my genuine guess behind it is that backpacks will work and then they'll disappear. And how that ties into droppable loot? Droppable loot is tying that to things like NPCs, so like aliens. So when you kill an alien, instead of the alien just disappearing, we want it to obviously provide you loot. The last thing we want to do is that you kill the alien and it drops a backpack full of loot. Because then you'd have to ask yourself is why has an alien got a backpack?
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
That's right.
Could have been what it's the last person it's unlucky to have eaten.
I'm just going to quickly show this because I worked on it and it rendered really slowly. Do you mind, Yoshi? It was one of the idents that we spoke about. You're also seeing it for the first time.
It doesn't include any music, does it?
No.
Oh, cool, because that's something I want to share with everyone after this.
Ah, all right. Well, hopefully everyone can see it. Because I was a VI first, I did this.
Spy.
Yeah, totally.
That's
Was that an Intel
pretty
graphics
cool.
video?
Yeah, I like that.
That is the Vortex Incorporated ident.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. For the LED, I'm just going to do Cordwell taking a shit.
That's not nice.
I'm only joking, Cordwell. I love you.
But yeah, no, that looks really cool. The first thing I did think was that Intel graphics or something like that.
Right?
Yeah, it's meant to be circuitry. It's meant to be circuitry and lighting up because, you know, I imagine the Vortex.
Yeah, the
gates have
memories of
circuit
Aurelia.
boards.
That's
Yeah.
valid.
Yeah, they do.
Thank fuck.
So
Confusion.
as we're still going through, I'm still here, able to take more questions from people. Has anyone got anything else to say, or Bravo? Does anybody have any other questions?
This I don't think is in Discord. Yossi, can I just go off topic? So this guy's wondering how I got maxed settings on my game. I'm playing 2K. I'm getting about 1000 FPS in DMC.
I don't have an answer for you, Cordwell.
He's wanting to know how. It's
I
probably
missed
because
you
I
so
got.
much, man. I really missed you, Codwell.
Probably because I got a GeForce 480.
Probably. Maliki. Yes, that's a technical abbreviation. Why I call it VTX instead of VI is purely based on the fact that the asset files name all of the Vortex files as VTX.
Do they really?
Yes. Go and open up your resources folder in your FOM directory.
It also names it in the game as well, as far as like our commands to change factions and stuff. It's not VI, it's VTX in there.
It was named VTX back in like the really old form as well at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. And
It
there
was
goes
like a
Aurelia.
short.
I blame Duplex for this.
That's
Nothing we can do about it. VI, I guess, was just a term coined by the players, perhaps. But VTX kind of makes sense. Kind of like Eurocope. By the way, that is the name of Eurocore. They're not called Eurocore, it's called Eurocope. If you go to Paris HQ, it literally has a P instead of an R. It says Eurocope. It always has done since 2002.
That's bound to have been intentional.
Let me in Paris. I want to see this.
It's like no one noticed it. There's a picture somewhere. I'd have to dig it out, but there is a picture somewhere of Eurocope.
Yeah, I hate to ask this, but where do I actually download the game from? Because I couldn't find it earlier.
The website.
Sorry, I just got directed to the Discord, so I am not quite sure where I'm going.
You go to www.empirerising.co.uk, and then you go to Play Now to register a forum account, and then there'll be a thing pop up in the forum that says Client Downloads, and you click on that, and it gives you all the information you need to install the game, install all the additional patches that it requires, and then log in and play the game. If you need further help, just poke a message in game support. I know recently some people have been saying at me, for example, in Discord. I've actually turned off direct messages from all people, because I came home one day to find 100 people spammed out my inbox, and most of the answers could have been answered by not 100 people, but it was 100 messages. One person sent me 40 messages. Most of the questions could have been answered in game support by other people experiencing the same issues and having the same solutions. One guy sent me 10 pictures of why he couldn't install FOM for me to go back to him and say, you've put it in the wrong folder.
Yeah, no, I was just going blind. Got to the forums.
Oh no.
Didn't notice the client download. So sorry.
It's okay. No, it happens. You know. As I'm still here, have you got any more questions?
Going once, going twice.
Are we not going to see any changes in like tick rate at all until August?
What do you mean tick rate?
Like the syncing issue.
The visibility.
Oh yeah, as things, you will see little changes in between. Remember, it is August right now, so.
I mean, sorry, I meant November. I misspoke.
Yeah, so there'll be improvements along the way. You know, as we fix other bugs, we'll fix, like, it won't just be, you know, we work on this thing and then this thing and then this thing and then this thing. It will be a case of this quarter, for the remainder of Q3, we want to just make sure we iron out lots of bugs as much as possible. So there'll be patches that come out, and it will just be like things like, for example, in the next patch, it will include trading.
What is happening?
But then we'll also have things like the faction tools issue with the event log. It could be things to do with the custom commands that we've got in place, so that you guys can gain maybe more credits or less credits depending on what we feel like at the time. It could be hot fixes related to you crashing out from like a colony. Like each patch that comes out will just essentially be a hot fix or a fix to issues that have been currently happening within the current version of the game.
So is the full visibility thing going to be kind of like a one day it's discovered and it's just going to be patched in and we're just going to have normal visibility all of a sudden? Or is this going to be a slow improvement?
It's going to be a slow improvement on that front. If you want me to give you a scope on how long it's taken us to go from single player to multiplayer, 8 months.
Not really scope. I'm not really talking about scope. I'm just talking about, like, is the problem with the full visibility of movement, is that like an undiscovered thing that needs to be connected to allow it to happen, and we're just using a temporary thing right now? Or is this temporary thing right now going to just slowly become faster and become the multiplayer thing?
The first one.
Okay, so it is one day going to be figured out and it'll just kind of snap into effect.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah,
Side note, there's 3 servers down right now.
It looks like everyone's online, right? Everyone's just trying to 5 servers are down.
Oh,
It's kind of late for me anyway, so see y'all.
Alright, man.
Maybe
You have a
you'll
good
get
one.
some analytics out of it.
Yeah, we'll get some bits and pieces out of it. Also, my question: what would you like us to focus on when bug testing or breaking things? Everything that currently doesn't work. As I said before, in the bug reporting side, I've been doing mega threads, right? So if you find a terminal issue that you feel you've come across, go and look at the mega thread, see if it covers one of those things, and then if it doesn't cover one of those things, add to it, and then I'll add that bug report to the mega thread, and then we can go back to it and we can decide, right, okay, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed, this is a quick fix, this is a long-term fix, this fix is a low priority fix, this is a high priority fix, and then we'll have when the patch notes come out, that it will show you.
So, Link had a good question. How much is alterable by the development team as far as like game feature, like the core game features, and how much is like actually just hard coded, like can't touch it?
There is a lot, and there is a little. Now, this is one of those things that, like, I've been told countless amounts of times, not to tell you guys that I don't want to say something.
Spit it out. Spit it out.
Look, what I'm trying to say is I don't want to tell you something that we might not be able to do in the future, because then that would defeat the purpose of us trying to do what we're doing. There are elements of the game that we can edit. There are elements of the game that we can change. But we're not in the position right now to change those elements because they are not a priority. I can give you one example. An example being is that Alexa, stop. I can give you one example. An example being is we can turn off the lights on Pegasi 51.
Yeah,
so it's perpetual darkness.
There's like
all the
5 servers down right now for the
in real
worlds.
time.
It's amazing.
So you could go to P51 and it will be
We're working
dark.
on it. It'll come back
As
up in a
in,
minute.
there'll be no lights. You'll have to use flashlights, the shoulder lamp, to be able to see everything. Like as if all the lights went out. Like as if the galaxy went dark. That's one of the things that we can do. Are we going to do it anytime soon? Probably not, because it's not a priority for us to mess about with the maps. When we get to a point that we are in a good place, that we can do something like that, then we'll have a play about. We'll put everybody on P51, we'll lock off all the other worlds, we'll say, we'll turn off all the lights, we'll give you flat shoulder lamps and guns, and then we'll release aliens. And we'll see how long you survive. Think alien isolation. So there'll be some cool stuff along the way for you guys to try. But we're not currently there yet. It's things we can do, but not priority, as I said. So let's wait and let's wait until Q4 when we're in a better place, and then we can start throwing some curveballs your way. If you want to know what is hard-coded, things right now that are hard-coded, factions are hard-coded. Weapons are hard-coded. Maps that are currently in the game are hard-coded. The things that we're doing are not hard coded. There's some interesting stuff on combat that I'm not going to get into, but there's some really cool stuff that the dev team has told me about that I can't wait for you guys to explore, and it's going to blow your mind. Also, right now, the Medigun might not heal you.
Yeah,
Try using it
I
on
figured that one out. That was
See, now it's an alternative energy weapon like the Doa.
Find a Gom guy come up to you. Oh, hey, I'm gonna get healed. Ow, that hurts. I can already imagine Darian doing that to somebody.
Some of the stuff that we have tried doing, and this is, you know, there are guns in place in the game that are basically placeholder guns, right? And when I say placeholder guns, is you equip them and you get them out and there is no gun there in its place, right? So some of the stuff we're trying to do in the background, it's not a priority. It's something like when we've like sat there and done bug working all day long, we sort of say, I wonder if this works, or I wonder if this works. You know, it's just the fun stuff that we do on the dev side. You know, one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to basically put a gun into that placeholder and then have that placeholder as an actual new gun, for example. But that's like, we're talking like 6, 8, 12 months in advance. Like, I'm not going to be able to do that anytime soon, you know? But these are the sorts of things that we're trying to do, you know? So there's lots of cool stuff. And when it's done, we'll show you. But right now, it's not done. So right now, the roadmap, I'll be posting the roadmap on the website. I'll be posting the roadmap on the forums, on the Discord, pretty much everywhere where it can be seen to show you guys that this is what we're working on right now. Does anybody have any other questions?
Thank you for using the security.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly run through a load of questions that were thrown at me that I haven't answered yet. So I'm just going to answer these now. So it's a quick, pretty much answer. So,
welcome to the mining terminal version 1.22b. If any problems,
some people might feel that when they complain about certain features within the community, that I give you a stubborn answer, or maybe I give you an answer that you don't like. It's far from it. We take all answers into consideration, and I talk to people about, like, you know, have I done something wrong? Should I do it differently? You know, is there other things that we can change? And we try and, I talk to the dev team and I say, well, this has happened, yada, yada, yada. What can we do to make it better, sort of thing. Changes, I believe in change, right? I'm a big person for change management. I truly believe that when, people bring like a suggestion or like, a function or something, it's not always going to be met with a no. As I just explained, some things are hard-coded, some things aren't. So
yeah, Titan Station is
a
fair bit loud.
Suggestion made like last year about there being a gambling system, and there is a gambling function in the game in FOM now.
Boom.
That was never in the old versions of FOM. Exclamation
Let's
gamble.
see, did he bring
up to
Manhattan
1,000
back?
UC. So exclamation gamble. I'll put it.
No,
in chat
Manhattan's
here.
still down.
For example, gamble.
That's
1,000.
a lot that's down right now.
If you roll
Is
above
GC
51,
down?
it's doubled. If you roll 100 perfectly, it's tripled. If you roll below 51,
GC's
you
up.
lose UC.
Okay.
So there is a gambling system in the game that allows you to gamble your own credits. It's not linked to anything else. It's completely
Damn.
standalone.
I rolled a 5.
There are some weird UI things that you'll see, but they'll disappear after you vault out. So we are constantly listening to the community. We do often read the project suggestions. You should be able to make project suggestions. Somebody recently asked about lived-in maps, so we're going to add more foliage, static props, planters, signage, that sort of thing to the maps. No, because a lot of the things are hard-coded. As I said, we can probably turn off the lights. That's about it. Maybe turn off the vortex gates at some point. You know, it all depends. It's just a huge work in progress that we're constantly working on. I don't work on that. The dev team that works on the game doesn't work on that. That's actually our Lift Tech developer, Burma, and he is an on-off developer within the project. He has many projects that he works on within the Lift Tech community, and ours is one of them. So it's basically as of when he finishes what he's doing to add another cool function into our game. And the project doesn't just belong to me, it does actually belong to everyone here. You know, if I disappeared randomly, I'm sure somebody would step in and say, right, okay, I'm going to do this, you know? It's not just going to disappear, but it's in good hands. We're good people. Believe in us. I think we've covered the random lore storyline announcements. So the global events right now are just things that happen, right? So, for example, if people didn't know already, I posted a thing about the drug terminal. People can make drugs already. You just have to go out and find it. Things like, you know, propaganda, the alien stuff that dropped in Ceres Delta Port. You just have to find it. You just have to go and find it. You have to be one of the lucky ones to go and find it. That's all you have to do. I'll drop in little hints as
The
we
timing,
add,
the fucking timing, the fucking timing of that, the fucking timing of that
find it and do your own thing with it, that sort of thing. We're not trying to force story or anything. I'm just trying to, you know, get people to do some things.
There's
you know,
drugs, you
test
just
some
have
new
to find
functions
it
out,
as I immediately
make sure
find it.
everything's working. I've got one here, essentially like announcements about promised content that's years away and unlikely to happen. So I think we've pretty much touched base on that. Once we have a full idea that's fully fleshed out, we'll announce it as being a full feature.
You
going
bitch,
forward.
I see
Things
you.
like everything that's on our
I see you metagaming.
post-release list that's on our website.
I see you
know, things
metagaming.
that we're going to do after the game is all fully up and running. We still want to do that sort of stuff.
Oh,
but
that's
not gonna
funny.
happen until after the game. I can say right now that there is one person in this
I thought you mentioned
community
something
trying
about
to
the
build
chemical
a map
lab, and then I
for
find the chemical
Empire
lab.
Rising, like a brand new world from scratch, and he
Oh, I'm
is
crying.
absolutely cutting his teeth at the development
Whoops.
kit. It's not like building hammer maps in Half-Life. It is horrible, and he's so far. I haven't seen any screenshots, but I think he's managed to make like an apartment block.
I didn't mean to do that.
Based on what he's told us.
I didn't mean to do
So there are people out there currently working on new worlds, but they're nowhere near like, you know, viewable ready or anything like that. They are. It's just really tough. Like unless you're like a full-blown world developer, map developer for like maybe Half-Life or Jedi Academy, Quake 2, Doom 2, that sort of thing. You know, things like old school sort of like FPS.
I didn't mean to do that. I'm not gonna lie.
It will hurt and it will struggle. You'll struggle.
It doesn't work anyway.
It's
Don't
not
let me do
impossible.
it. It might let you do it. I don't think I can because I'm on a CM account.
Cash shop.
So.
A couple of people have spoken to me or heard me talk about cash shop. Cash shop transparency. In terms of like what we think cash shop is going to be. I recently had a discussion with the dev team about this.
I didn't mean to do that.
We were actually chilling in the GOM Discord and we were all talking about this.
You guys might be able to do it. I don't think I can.
The idea of the cash shop is that we want to bring back things like hats, but we kind of want to tie them behind donations more than anything. things like it'll be once again, this is an idea that's not fully fleshed out, but I just want to clarify that we're not going to go down the route that Nexion went down, where we sell armor or armor packs or things like, you know, stuff that gives you an advantage over another player. It's going to be purely
He's going to be
cosmetic
mad at me
related
about
stuff
that one.
that you can't otherwise obtain
I
within
feel
the
it.
game.
I feel it coming.
And it may also be custom content that people create. So, as I said, we have creation tools where you can make your own models and stuff like that. And like, you know, like how things, you know, like make a t-shirt. Like you might want to make a t-shirt that says, like hashtag EC sucks or something like that, you know? And you might want to slap that on a t-shirt and say to me, hey, can we put this t-shirt on the marketplace? And it will be like, say, I don't know, $1 or $2. And you donate $1 or $2 and you get a t-shirt, for example. You know, it's not going to be a pay-to-win thing. It's not going to give you any good thing, because as soon as you wear that t-shirt, an EC is just going to gun you down. But it's also, it allows people that have been donating to the project to actually get something back out of it as well. That's more of like an exclusive item from their point of view. Because I know a lot of people donate to the project, and I know, you know, we've let a lot of people into the early access, and one of the functions behind the donation packs was that you get like a custom piece of clothing from the large selection of premium clothing that's out there. You know, if one of the donators then wants a hat out of it, for example, then they can get a hat out of it. You know, it's not going to be there to. It's not going to be there to exploit you. It's not going to be there to basically, you know, sort of like.
I didn't mean to
how
do
to
that.
say, like, turn the game pay to win. It's purely a way of people wanting to give back, you know. I think if people have also asked us the question is, what do we spend the donation money on? Well, without the donation money, we wouldn't have servers up, and also, you know, it's things that allow us to push development team forward. I can give you a rough estimation on how much development tools cost. We have 4 main developers on the team, and each developer requires a license to a program that we use internally, and that license costs $250 per year for us to be able to use it. So we have 4 of those. So we roughly spend about, give or take, let's see, servers are between $200 to $300 per month right now. They may get bigger depending on taxes, inflation, that sort of thing. On top of that, the development licensing costs, we're probably spending in and around £3,000 or £4,000 a year on development. So yeah, there is a lot of, you know, like development costs and stuff like that that go into making sure that this all works. And we obviously, we're telling you that because it's important that you guys know, because it's a question that's been asked. But, you know, if we didn't have the support from other people, we wouldn't be here now. We wouldn't have an open beta test. We wouldn't have all the cool things that we're working on. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. That is pretty much all the stuff that I've been provided anyway, and I just wanted to let you guys know. New custom updated apartments. So this is an inside joke. We in the dev team, we had an inside joke where we thought it'd be funny to sell apartments at $950 a piece per room, basically. So if you wanted a 4-bedroom house, it would cost you $4,000 or $5,000. It's a funny joke that we cracked with Burma, because Burma is the one that would create those apartments. He is currently working on his own custom apartment. It has taken him 8 months so far to put 4 walls up, a floor, a TV, a sofa and a bed and a window in his apartment. There's no roof. So when you think about it, that's how long it takes to make an apartment. Imagine how long it takes to make a brand new world. But yeah, that,
Ground
we're
Zero.
not gonna do custom apartments anytime soon. If we do,
Yeah,
that
we
would be...
suggestion for after 1.0. No,
No,
just a way to flesh out the paint shop.
That will be a future thing, you know.
Yep.
But besides that, I hope that that's also solved a lot of the issues that people have had, and also, like, I'm also here to answer some more questions if anybody has any more questions.
Just out of interest, that apartment that he was building, was that all custom assets? Because that's a lot of time for putting up. I'm not criticizing the guy. I don't know the engine, but
He's using textures that are from this game.
Did I accidentally put in the best code?
So it's not borrowed asset. Well, yeah, it would be. It's borrowed textures.
If I knew the math code,
but they're
probably,
specifically
okay.
like he's done it all himself.
Probably
Like, he's
not.
had to build the window frame and then put the glass texture into the window frame.
Zero's killing me.
And then put the texture.
God, Zero
around the window.
hates
It's not
me.
like a custom window block that you just place on the floor, sort of thing.
yeah,
It's a lot of work. A lot of these maps are hand built. You know, they take a long time to build.
even with granular detail, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Sorry, as I say, again, I don't know the engine, so
No, it's fine.
this is a bit-
The engine we use is Lifttech Jupiter. It's an old engine from the year 2003. But the map editor is more advanced than Hammer for the Half-Life engine, so it can do like the maps that you make actually can do a lot more than what you can put into like Half-Life 1 maps. And I've seen some really amazing Half-Life 1 maps, so if it can do a lot more than that, then, you know, the world's your oyster if you manage to master how to do it. Does everybody want to hear something cool? I.e., some potentially new music that our music department have been working on for the game. Like a new theme tune for like the login screen, for example.
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
Do it.
I'm gonna make sure this is the right one, so let me double check that I got the right one. Okay, I got the right one. Alright. So, I'm gonna share my screen. Turn this up really loud. Too loud. Okay, let's try again. So here we go. Sharing screen now. Tie screen, because you'll need this to not show you that. So tie screen. Okay, everyone can see the player, right? Start it now. Right, so hopefully everyone can listen. This is it's a work in progress, but it's sent to us by our music guy, Jason, who has been doing a lot of work trying to make like a new FOM soundtrack, and also a lot of this music will eventually be featured in the game, but it may be featured in trailers and things that we tend to show off. But we wanted to keep it grounded and sort of like FOM inspired. Anyway, I'll let you guys listen to it. I've had some good feedback so far from it, but I want you guys to hear this. So, volume up, have a listen, tell me what you think afterwards. Please don't interrupt it. It's really good. Let's go for it. So yeah, that was a
Really good.
Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah, it's quite cool. Yeah, I hope people liked it. It's just a preview of things to come.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, I thoroughly like that music.
What did you have to ask me, Chef Green? Chef Green.
Yes. One last question is there going to be like a character or storage wipe before combat? Because essentially it would tell us whether producing is valuable or not.
I don't want to hear the answer to that.
So, right now, we don't plan to wipe any like people's storage or faction pools or stuff like that
Y'all are dead.
for the duration of like.
Y'all are dead.
Welcome to the mining terminal.
We're not going to
version
wipe
1.
storage or anything like that. It will just there'll be.
Please contact your local
It will.
administration.
The wipes are purely dependent on what we're testing. So, say for example, right now there are no public apartments because public apartments don't exist. What we'll do is before we release public apartments, or when we fix basic apartments, we might have to wipe the apartments table, which then deletes everybody's apartments, which means they'll then have to go back and buy new apartments. Things like people. So right now there are production mods that you can buy, but they don't cost any UC to buy them. What we may do is we may delete your production module table, which means you'll then have to go and rebuy the production modules again. But then this time round, the production modules would actually cost you money instead of it costing you nothing.
So there would be a concern with this, and that concern would generally be everybody stockpiling like a motherfucker right now, and then let's say multiplayer becomes a thing and war starts. There's no loss to a war at that point because the stockpiles are endless.
Right now,
Sounds like a you problem.
During open beta, that's not really, the open beta is a testing thing. Like, when we go like full release, like when the game is like full release sort of thing, like everyone's characters will just do what we did for open beta. We'll just wipe all the characters. Everybody has to start again. But that doesn't mean we're going to wipe all the accounts. It just means all the characters will get wiped.
Yeah, I think that's actually super fair, and like also like we're stockpiling. Everybody is, obviously, right? But then you get combat out, and everybody has a stockpile to use combat with, right? Which is gonna ultimately help you as devs in the long run, because everybody's gonna be fighting. We're gonna test everything out, and it'll set you guys up for that release.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally no point in us wiping your faction pools out and then releasing combat and then saying, oh, you're gonna have to spend a week crafting everything to do combat. Like, that would be boring.
Anyone want a death war with EC?
You'll lose.
What?
Be fun to watch though.
No,
Sorry, I said that out loud.
I don't know. Like, I kind of disagree with that though. That it would be boring, because like one of the biggest rushes of old farm wipes was the eco war to get weapons first.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Since we're doing
We're gonna
lots of
get
things
that on
based
launch.
around, since we're doing lots of things based around community, when we get to the point of releasing like a big combat update, we'll just do a tally vote on the Discord and see how many people vote for like a wipe of all of your shit before combat comes out versus a wipe of none of your shit before combat comes out.
It's gonna be a public vote though, so we can add them all to the KOS list, right?
I mean,
Better to
it'll
do
be
that
on
in
Discord.
Good.
But all I'm saying is like, ecoing is fun for a
let
lot
me
of people,
spawn one.
so it's fun. The last thing I want for people to do is like
And
sit
it
there and
despawned.
eco for like 2
And
days
it
whilst we're
despawned
expecting it to be a
immediately.
concentrated combat.
That's
And what we
funny.
want to avoid also is like GMs standing there and being the people that have to hand out weapons to you guys because we want you to test combat. Like, imagine you being that person, being the GM, standing there, having to constantly ask people to go to them and say, hey, trade me if you want a weapon, here's some ammo. Hey, trade me if you want a weapon, here's a weapon, here's some ammo. 100 times. It becomes incredibly boring for that person to do that job.
Is there no way to add directly into the faction pools?
No, we can't add directly into the faction pools.
Pity.
I mean, we can, but we're not
Please,
going to.
let me do it.
No, it was just a suggestion to see if we can
I want to make
make
drugs
things easier,
too.
'cause you'd probably want to test full-scale war, while everyone has plenty of supplies, plus
Hey, Psycho, how you doing, bud?
one where all our supplies have been effectively
good, I
wiped,
muted on
because
Discord.
that's where we're going to be starting from, 1.0.
That would have been weird.
Unless I've misunderstood something.
I mean, right now you could do a full-scale war, but I mean, there's no death penalties. There's no durability on weapons right now. There's no, things don't degrade over time. There's no armor stats, that sort of thing. So as new functions become available in combat, we just want people to test them as soon as they can. We don't want people to wait. We don't want to lock loads of like new functions that we release in open beta to be locked behind eco wall. Eco is still going to be needed to be a thing because you're going to run out of ammunition, and once you've run out of all your ammunition, you're then going to have to get people to eco ammunition. But yeah, I mean, wipes will be based purely on what we're actually testing. So if we're going to do apartments, we'll wipe apartments. If it's going to be armor, we'll take out all the armor. If it's going to be armor stats, then yeah,
Doesn't like me make drugs.
Okay, it is getting late. Does anybody else have any other questions before we wrap this up?
Are you doing some sort of Q&A in here?
Holy shit, Zach.
Hello there.
Hello, mate. I haven't fucking spoken to you in ages.
No, it's lovely to hear your dulcet tones once again. Long time no speak. I didn't realize you were having some formal event in here. I just popped in randomly.
Yeah, I've been Q&Aing for like nearly 2 hours now.
Talking about fucking roleplay for like 2 hours. Jesus.
It's been 3 actually.
Both the Michaels are in VC now, aren't we, Link?
It has actually been 3
brother.
hours. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm pretty sure we went on lore for like an hour and a half.
Well,
as long as Gianni loses EC rank 7, I'm good.
I'm just glad to see a decent community project. I wasn't really down with the whole Mankind Reborn thing. Looked a bit gay to me.
It's 2025. Can we say gay again?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, you guys fucking love that Mankind Reborn shit. Looked like a pile of shite to me.
I never played it. Well, I did play like the early version. I paid for it, and then they wouldn't give me any more updates.
I didn't play it because it looked like one of those fucking fake mobile games that you get on YouTube ads.
So, Yoshi, I have a confession to make.
What's the confession, sir?
As soon as you said something about the drug manufacturing, I immediately found it.
Cool, nice. Just don't tell anybody else.
About that.
He immediately told his entire factory.
Good job. Now I have
Can
to
you
move
interact with it as a CMG?
about that.
Can you?
It was on the stream, so yeah.
Good
you
job.
might have to move it.
Good job.
I'm sorry.
No, honestly,
Who can interact with the drug terminal in this version? Is it only BOS?
At this current time, everybody can manufacture drugs.
That's how it was before, I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know about this version at all. I keep
In
running
this
into
version,
things
Everyone can manufacture drugs.
like
Except
UC
for the
rewards
stab.
having a cooldown. I didn't know about that shit.
Need to give LED a reason to exist.
My CM account won't let me do drugs.
I do have a question that is aimed squarely at both Link and Yoshi. You ready to field my question?
Yeah, go on then, Zach.
Which old soldiers of note are currently around? You don't have to name built people. I know the built people who are around, but like other people not built.
Fawcett, fucking Yakuza, Gravini is online.
Zach, how's your voice got
Like
fucking deeper? What the fuck?
It's
like the
it's a good
oldest
quality
character I
mic.
know.
You've just paid a hobo to fucking grab your balls and drag them to the floor.
I've had a rough life.
Fuck off!
Speaking of Yakuza, sorry if this is dredging up any bad memories for people, but I heard that Genjiro died. Is that true?
No.
I think so. I think it is.
From what I heard, yes, he did.
Someone told me he OD'd.
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5, 6 years ago. MOTB went event Discord has like some information about the people that passed away.
Oh shit! Can you tag me in that channel?
Let me find it. Do I really want to do this at 9 a.m.? Find.
Wait, why is it 9 a.m. for you?
He lives in Japan now.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
Now it's been like almost 10 years.
Konnichiwa.
Visit Japan is still on my bucket list.
I have a friend who also lives in Japan, Link. He works for like one of those news network things. He says the
So-
parties out there are insane.
Apart from Genjiro, and Jack O'Neill, who else has died that I should be aware of?
You're really bringing the bright, cheery vibes today, Zach.
I've just been, I've been out of the loop, so I don't want to, make a faux pas and be like, wow, when's so-and-so going to play the game? And then someone's like, no, they've died of a heroin overdose. Which seems to be the way most fun players go. Is there anyone else dead I should be aware of?
Everyone thought Reefer was dead because he stopped playing games, but he's still kicking around.
Does he still work at Walmart?
I have no idea what he's doing. I haven't talked to him or Audie in a while.
I think he might be the hardest working man in Newfoundland.
Yeah, I linked him. Oh, but that was while Falm was still running.
I actually didn't know that.
You didn't know what? Sorry.
Abdul Tyson.
Who the fuck is Abdul Tyson?
He was like 2010, 2009.
Is he dead?
He's dead.
Zach,
Oh,
for
shit.
fuck's sake!
Jesus Christ.
Well, I don't know who the fuck he is, so I don't
Oh, Mike, fuck me.
Abdul Tyson. So
Is
like
that-
some.
Is he
some
fucking
dead
dead?
packet.
Is it just
Some
the,
dead
is he
fucking
fucking
packet.
dead?
Zach, I think
Is he fucking dead, mate?
I think you need to wind it in, Zach.
I can't
Can't
wind
use-
it in. I'm loose.
You can't be this loose, okay? Like, just calm down, okay?
I
Hey, I
can't
found
do
Darian.
it. Just wait until Afri gets on here. You know what we're like together.
I'm sure now to play any video games.
What is he doing in real life?
He runs like somebody told me he runs like a company now. He's like a entrepreneur.
Yeah,
He is
probably
he is autistic enough to do that.
Probably runs like a bakery or something. Probably does like sourdough or something.
No way.
It's like
yeah,
it's
but
like Farron. He's got a fully working job now. Like he doesn't play video games.
well, Farron's like some crypto spurg, isn't he, or some shit like that?
Well,
Who lives in Venezuela?
So is Tornado.
I
He
fucking-
doesn't live in Venezuela, but he works for a stock exchange company in London.
I would never call Tornadium a crypto spurg. You know, I've got a soft spot for Little Tor. But Farron, he's a character. Who else? Who
This
else?
is interesting. I
non-Bill
didn't
is
know
on
this was a thing.
So I can say my hellos.
I don't really know. Like,
Oh, you got that fucking Bellend Heffernan. Why is he here?
Oh, there you go.
why not?
Hey, Caldwell's here.
Oh yeah,
Caldwell's here.
Caldwell hit me with that.
I like
What did he
Caldwell.
say? I think I am
Don't want to
life.
make a fox pass.
Speaking of people who've had fruitful interactions with Caldwell, is Bob the driver around? His red is QL3. His Doa.
Oh shit.
Is Bob the driver around? I haven't seen him in like a decade. I know Bob the builder is, but what about Bob the driver?
I've not seen Bob the Driver.
Shit.
Remember
just-
half this stuff, dude. My memory's like purged.
You have a better memory than me when it comes to farm stuff. Like
I
you'd
logged
always-
into this game and I fucking forgot how to play all of it.
Like I'd say something.
What?
And you'd list off
Oh, I
everyone who
fell
was
in between
TSS or some shit.
That's
Yeah, but
funny.
that's like really, that's like 2005. I have like that memory. I don't have a memory of actually like, playing the game after 2005.
Literally the only TSS people I can remember is
Oh,
Doma
boy.
and Crasher. Oh, and
Krogar.
clean as well. I think he was
Clean,
DSS.
no.
I think we might call it here.
Oh.
I think he was TSS.
Zach,
Those boys were too young.
If you're as old as me as playing FOM, you'll remember Paul Wall. He's about.
Oh yeah, I like Paul Wall. I was always partial to Paul Wall. I know people treated him like a bit of a lolcow, but.
Alrighty. We're gonna go ahead and call it here for now, cause yeah. I want to thank everybody for joining. We're pretty much done with the community voice part of the well, everything. I'm gonna call the stream here for now, and then I might be around on my actual playable character later today, but otherwise I think that's about it. Thank you all so much for the support today. Thank you all for your questions and taking the time to come hang out and listen in and ask your questions, get updates about the game, stuff like that. I will be doing another stream Monday. I'll be doing another one Monday. Just to kind of cover a few updates and see how the drug trade progresses because I accidentally found it. For those of you that watch my other stuff, I might be back on later today, so just keep an eye out. Thank y'all so much for the follows. Thank y'all so much for the support today and the donations and subscriptions today. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank y'all so much. And I will see you all a bit later.